Drinking black tea calmly at Hogwarts. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 76. In many novels, the protagonist has a powerful background, which allows the protagonist to do many things conveniently. Zhang Su now enjoys such treatment, and with the help of Mr. Zhao, many of his ideas can be realized quickly. However, Zhang Su is not the kind of person who can do whatever he wants when he has a background. He still played a big role in many issues. For example, Mr. Zhang Zuchaozha recently submitted a feasibility report on the purchase of the recently decommissioned aircraft carrier Minsk and the decommissioned Kiev aircraft carrier at the end of June this year to build an aircraft carrier theme park. These two aircraft carriers from the 70s will definitely be destroyed when they are bought back. The power system and weapon system will definitely be destroyed. They will not be able to be used as warships when they are bought back, but there is still a lot to be done as a park. The purpose of buying these two slightly outdated retired aircraft carriers to build a theme park is to buy the one that is still soaking in the sea and bought back a few years later under the banner of Macau's first offshore casino is online. Liang played a cover. Originally, the Navy had plans to take advantage of the disintegration of the Soviet Union to purchase Soviet aircraft carriers, but considering all aspects, it was found that the feasibility was not high after all. Russia does not want its neighbors to the south to have strong sea power. So Zhang Su put forward a three-step plan in the report. The first step is to rent a venue in Russia, and domestic people will provide materials. After buying the newly decommissioned Kiev, it will be transformed into a marine park in Russia and then dragged back. The first step is to tow the Minsk back and transform it into a marine park. The next third step is to target a Variag under the same name. After buying it, whether it will be transformed into a sea casino or a large flat-top fishery administration ship. In this way, if it goes well, the Variag will be available in 1996 to 1997. After several years of transformation, the Navy will have an aircraft carrier within a few years of entering the 21st century. Period. Ever since, when Zhang Su brought Fu Rong and Gabrielle to the surface after exploring the Yongle Dragon Cave, he saw a group of officers who were crazy about aircraft carriers waiting for him on the sea. For the next few days, the helpless Zhang Su could only have a meeting with a group of elders in the conference room on Yongxing Island. Fu Rong and Gabrielle followed Zhang Su's cousin on the island to study how to grow vegetables. Time flies, and this year's summer vacation is coming to an end. 1 week before the start of school, Zhang Su came to the UK because several Hogwarts classmates wrote to him and wanted to talk to him about something. In the Leaky Cauldron, Zhang Su met Harry Potter, who lived here after running away from home. "Harry, why are you here?" Zhang Su stopped Harry Potter, who had just come down from the Leaky Cauldron. "I blew up my cousin Dudley," said Harry, shrugging. "He was talking bad about my parents like Aunt Marge in front of me." Very good, very powerful." Zhang Su was a little speechless. Zhang Su ordered 2 breakfasts and asked Harry to eat together. Zhang Su watched the recent Daily Prophet while eating breakfast. Under the action of the will of the world, some things have changed, but some things have not changed. Arthur Weasley won the Daily Prophet's annual Grand Prix, and the 5 children of his family who had just returned from China embarked on a trip to Egypt. Then Sirius still saw the Weasley family portrait in the newspaper, and then swam all the way back to the British Isle from Azkaban. Zhang Su still admires Sirius' perseverance. A dog at the beginning, who was not fed and clothed in Azkaban, was able to run back from the vast sea. As for the matter of Hogwarts students going to China, except for a while at the beginning, it was never mentioned in the newspapers. I didn't hear any other wizards mention it in the bar. After breakfast, Harry went to Diagon Alley to drool over the broomsticks in the window, and several classmates who had business with Zhang Su also arrived one after another. When Percy Weasley, Cedric Diggory, Penelope Crivet, and Daphne Greengrass came to sit down at Zhang Su's table one after another, Zhang Su was a little confused. The rhythm of doing things together. "Zhang, have you noticed that the Daily Prophet did not publish any news about our return from China?" Penelope said. "Perhaps because Sirius escaped from prison, he has occupied the headlines during this time." Zhang Su said. "No." Daphne said, "Someone doesn't want the public to know what we saw in Huaxia. In the Ministry of Magic, someone issued an order to the Daily Prophet to prohibit reporters from interviewing students who have been to China. Cedric's father was more popular in the Ministry of Magic than Mr. Weasley, so he could get a lot of news. Obviously, some people don't want to see Britain become like China. Percy said, if the magic world in Britain changes, then their interests will no longer exist. Are there many such people? Zhang Su asked. Not many. Daphne said, but they are all very conservative ancient families with a very wide network of contacts. It will be impossible to refuse some of their requests for a while. At first they tried to make the families cut off their trade with China. As a result, it was rejected. Later, they put pressure on the Ministry of Magic and the Daily Prophet to prohibit reporting on this matter. As a member of the ancient wizard family, Daphne knows a lot of news in the circle. What do other families think about this? Zhang Su asked. In the past 2 years, many families have made a lot of money through trade with China. It is absolutely impossible for them to cut off trade with China. But they are worried that if the British magic world becomes the same as China, the benefits will be divided among the half-blood wizards, Daphne said. The attitudes of the various families towards Huaxia are very contradictory. Percy said, on the one hand, because of the trade, because they have obtained huge profits, they are very eager to cooperate with Huaxia. On the other hand, most families do not want to learn from Huaxia. But there are still some families who hope to learn from Huaxia. In the Ministry of Magic, there are also different voices. Some people hope to get along with Muggles openly, so that the Ministry of Magic can hold more power. Cedric said. In the group of half-blood wizards, almost all agree to expand contacts with China, and hope to learn from China's model. Penello said, you also know that the current system and atmosphere of the British magic world are not friendly to half-blood wizards. After listening to these people's words, Zhang Su fell into a wave of deep thought. Several people here understand how complicated conflicts of interest lie behind the prohibition of media reports. And Zhang Su's understanding of this is much deeper than the few of them. A new interest group has formed due to the expansion of trade with China. A bureaucratic group eager to gain more power has begun to stretch out its hand. A group that has been oppressed has seen the hope of rising, and the ancient forces are in tightly guard the interests in your hands. This is so special that the rhythm of revolution is about to break out. Zhang Su, who is very familiar with the modern history of China in both worlds, complained in his heart. In Zhang Su's previous life, there was a monkey marshal who studied history in the Rome Total War group. His research direction was modern Chinese history. He said that looking at the modern history of China, many of the various teaching plans were the result of conflicts between groups attached to foreign forces and local clan forces competing for interests, and the Taiping Heavenly Kingdom uprising launched in the name of foreigners, as well as the contradiction between foreign comprador groups and local groups. This period of history has supported many people who study history. Zhang Su looked at the 4 people in front of him. They all represented the interests of one side. Daphne Greenglass and her Greengrass family have made a lot of money by exporting magic materials to China for the past 2 years. Daphne personally told Zhang Su that their family heard from somewhere that Chinese people pay attention to parents' orders and matchmakers' words when they get married. If Zhang Su hadn't hooked up with Fu Rong, their family would send someone to Huaxia to find her. Zhang Su's family has proposed marriage, whether it's herself or her younger sister. Zhang Su can choose whatever he wants. And Percy Weasley's family, through Charlie Weasley, recently obtained the European agency rights for the broomsticks produced by Huaxia. The purpose of their family's trip to Egypt this holiday was to persuade their eldest son, Bill Weasley, to quit his job at Gringotts and come back to take over the businesses for the British Ministry of Magic, span on the import of broomsticks and the like, purchase parts and paint them to make them British. Cedric Diggory's father, Amos Diggory, saw hope of extending his power. Penelope Crivet is a representative of half-blood wizards who have been exploited and suppressed in the British wizarding world. This table is the British Ministry of Magic's court confidant. Zhang Su complained again. We are all smart people and know what each other means without saying it, so Zhang Su very much doubted whether the group behind them had reached some kind of tacit agreement, or even an agreement. Since it is not clear, then everyone will continue to play tacit understanding. Zhang Su said to them, since they are unwilling to report this matter, then we will report it ourselves. The eyes of Percy and the 4 of them brightened, and they realized that this was a good idea. Zhang Su continued, if you don't run a newspaper, you must distinguish it from the Daily Prophet. To run a magazine, our content does not pursue timeliness, but depth. It is published once a week, and the target audience is under 30 years old. Wizards and current students at Hogwarts. The content can be rich and varied, and you can openly invite manuscripts. If you want to do it, I suggest doing a series of topics on the basilisk incident some time ago. Just figure it out. I won't be free next semester. Several people in Percy discussed it and found that it was feasible. Finally, Percy asked Zhang Su, what should the name of this magazine be? Let's call it Youth Magazine. Zhang Su said. Chapter 77 Professor, I want to play Scarlet Devil House. In the last few days of the holiday, Zhang Su also lived in the Leaky Cauldron, and became neighbors with Harry. It's just that the environment of the Leaky Cauldron bar is so bad that Zhang Su has to spend some time to clean up his room. In the past few days, Zhang Su didn't do anything else, but check the textbooks for next semester's class in the bar room, and spent the rest of the time wandering casually in Diagon Alley. The textbook for next semester's Muggle Studies class has already been finished by Zhang Su in China, and it is now on sale at the Lihun bookstore in Diagon Alley. Zhang Su came to Lihun bookstore, planning to buy other textbooks for the 3rd grade. Zhang Su walked into the bookstore, and the manager of the bookstore rushed forward to greet him. Is it from Hogwarts? The bookstore manager asked, are you here to buy new books? Yes, Zhang Su said. Please step aside. The manager of the bookstore said impatiently, pushing Zhang Su aside. The bookstore manager put on a pair of thick gloves, picked up a thick, knotty cane, and walked towards the iron cage containing the monster books of the monsters. Wait a minute, I don't need to buy this book. Zhang Su said. Don't you need to buy it? The manager immediately said with a look of great relief on his face, thank God, I have been bitten 5 times this morning. Suddenly there was a loud tearing sound from the iron cage, and the 2 ghost books of the monsters grabbed the 3rd one and tore it apart together. Just as the manager of the bookstore opened the books vigorously with his cane, Zhang Su took out a few hay-like things, lit them with his wand and white smoke came out, and then stretched them into the monster book cage of the monsters. As the white smoke drifted away in the iron cage, all the monster books of the irritable monsters quieted down, and they all lay quietly at the bottom of the iron cage. Then Zhang Su used the floating spell to make the smoking hay float in the iron cage. Thank you so much, sir. You solved a huge problem for us. The manager of the bookstore said to Zhang Su very gratefully, can you sell this herbal medicine to me? You don't need to sell it. Zhang Su took out a handful of hay and put it on the counter. This herb is called Ningxiankao. The smoke after it burns has a calming effect. You can stick a piece of it on the back of each book cover, so that these books will not be grumpy. It is said that these grasses are not worth much, just give me a discount after I buy the books. Also, although this kind of grass is not poisonous and can be eaten, it is best not to put it in your mouth. If you don't believe me, try it. The bookstore manager accidentally picked up a piece of Ningxian grass from the counter, chewed it in his mouth, and then ran to the bathroom behind the bookstore to rinse his mouth. Zhang Su shrugged, and continued to choose the books he needed in the bookstore. This kind of Ningxian grass is as easy to feed as weeds, and its taste is so bitter that even insects dare not eat it, so Professor Sprout planted a large number of this grass around the greenhouse and vegetable field to prevent insects. In the bookstore, Zhang Zushan picked out the books he was interested in. Suddenly, Zhang Su saw a bug crawling in the air on a small bookshelf. Zhang Su stared carefully again, and made sure that the insect was crawling on its legs in the air, and its wings did not move. Zhang Su reached out to feel where the worms had crawled, only to find a row of invisible books. Zhang Su picked up one of them, fumbled to open it, and found that the contents inside could be seen after the book was opened, but nothing could be seen from the cover side when turned over. Zhang Su took out a bookmark, half of which was caught in the book and half of which was exposed. Zhang Su took this strange book and walked to the counter, and said to the bookstore who had just returned from rinsing his mouth, "This book is invisible, so you are not afraid that someone will take it without paying." Then the bookstore gave another thank you, because after this batch of invisibility books of the invisibility technique came back, they were never found again. Then the manager of the bookstore took a stack of bookmarks and imitated Zhang Su to put a bookmark on each book. After Zhang Su finished selecting the books, the manager of the bookstore directly gave Zhang Su a % discount, and the invisibility book on invisibility was given to Zhang Su. After paying the bill, Zhang Su saw several sets of Muggle encyclopedias on the bookshelf. These are the textbooks for the Muggle Studies course designated by Zhang Su. They are full color on high-grade coated paper. The pages are printed, and the style of painting in the bookstore is obviously different from other books. How is the sales of this set of books? Zhang Su asked the bookstore manager, pointing to Muggle Encyclopedia. This set of books introducing Muggles from China is very popular. The bookstore manager said, the paper and printing have never been seen before, the content is very interesting, and the price is very low. This is Hogwarts Muggle book this year. I bought the textbooks for the Melon Studies class, but many students who did not take this course and many adult wizards bought this set of books. If I hadn't kept enough, otherwise many students would have no textbooks in this year's class. Speaking of making money, the manager of the bookstore had a happy smile on his face. Hearing that this set of books was very popular, Zhang Su was relieved. When the country compiled this set of books for the Muggle Studies class at Hogwarts, it was not simply compiled as a textbook, but a combination of teaching, fun, academics and private goods. A complete set of 5 books objectively tells the history, technology and social development of the Muggle world for thousands of years from the shallower to the deeper. From the first book used by the 3rd grade, it tells the common sense of Muggle social life, the basic usage and precautions of various electrical appliances. Book 5, used up to year, describes the economic, political, legal and philosophical development of Muggle society. After learning a set of books, wizards basically have no problem living in Muggle society. Just as Zhang Su was about to leave, a beautiful figure walked into the bookstore. The person who came was a little girl who looked less than 1.4 meters tall, wearing a pink dress, a pink loose round hat, and holding a pink umbrella in her hand. There were scarlet ribbons and lace on pink dresses, round hats, and parasols under the loose round hat. There's a cute bun face, with short purple hair and short silver hair. The pupils of the eyes are a strange red. When the mouth is opened, a pair of cute little canine teeth will be revealed. This cute little girl, if Zhang Su can't beat her, maybe Zhang Su will give her to PR one day when no one is around. Hello, Professor Scarlet. Zhang Su greeted the little girl. Helson Scarlet is a professor of mathematics who just came to Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry last year. Her Scarlet family took refuge in Hong Kong during Voldemort's rebellion, and then settled in Hong Kong. Helson Scarlet graduated from the Department of Mathematics of the University of Hong Kong, and was invited by Dumbledore to be a professor of numbers at Hogwarts when he was in Chapter 42. Regarding Professor Helson Scarlet, there are 2 mysteries about her. Her age is a mystery, and her strength is a mystery. Because Helson Scarlet is not tall and looks very cute, many students think that she is not very old, but the students who asked her age were all beaten to death by her. On a certain Saturday night last year, when Zhang Su and the others were practicing defense against the dark arts in the Room of Requirement, Helson Scarlet visited the Room of Requirement. As a result, none of the students who were practicing at that time could fight, and she overthrew all 2 or 3 moves on the grounds of extracurricular tutoring. Zhang Su, who had the best score, only survived under her hands for more than 2 minutes. Since then, no one dared not to pay attention to mathematics class during the basilisk incident. She took many students to a safe place. When dealing with a basilisk, she blocked a basilisk's attempt to escape from the hall by herself on the stairs. The name Crimson Demon began to circulate in Hogwarts. Since then, the students' enthusiasm for learning mathematics has been very high. Because Professor Scarlet is very good at playing and is full of majesty in the classroom, although she looks very cute, the students are very afraid of her. Especially Draco Malfoy. The treatment of Harry Potter in potions class is the same as that of Draco Malfoy in mathematics class. And Draco Malfoy couldn't find someone to reason with, because one of the Death Eaters that Voldemort sent to Hong Kong to hunt down the Scarlet family was Draco Malfoy's father, Lucius Malfoy. Blessing. But Professor Scarlet has a very good relationship with Zhang Su. Helson Scarlet, who has lived in Hong Kong for more than 10 years, can be regarded as half of Zhang Su's hometown, and both of them like to drink black tea, so they quickly became acquainted. Professor Scarlet's current attire was designed for her by Zhang Su for a certain purpose. The lady without wings is cute too. However, after confirming that the Scarlet family did not have a pair of sisters named Remilia Scarlet and Flanders Scarlet, Zhang Su was disappointed for a long time. Chapter 78. Scarlet, I beat your father. Outside Florin's cold drink shop, Zhang Su and Scarlet were sitting on a long table outside the shop, eating ice cream and chatting casually. How did you become an acting professor? What deal do you have with Loudon? Scarlet asked. There's a deal, but I think you should be able to see it with your wisdom. Zhang Su replied. Scarlet, too lazy to watch? You're not afraid to play off yourself? Zhang Su, at worst, run away. Scarlet, Remember to take me running then. Zhang Su, elder sister, you are so powerful that you have boundless magical powers. You will still need me for things like running around. Scarlet, when it comes to fighting, you are inferior to me. When it comes to running, I don't believe that the group of people behind you didn't prepare cards for you. Because Dumbledore was fooled by you, I was invited to be a professor, so you be accountable to me. Zhang Su, no problem, if I am responsible for you, I will be responsible for you. Scarlet, TCH, don't make it sound like you've done something to me. Zhang Su, what happened to you? I'm young, so I don't understand. Scarlet, go away, don't pretend to be innocent in front of me. Speaking of which, your girlfriend is in France, so I'm not afraid that someone will poach you away. Zhang Su, no way, I have something to dig. You don't know what's going on with me. Scarlet, it's not that you don't know what those families think, and your family is not that bad. Look at the two sisters over there, as long as you nod, sisters are fine. Zhang Su turned his head and saw Daphne Greengrass leading a little girl shopping in a store not far away. Zhang Su turned back to look at Scarlet, and asked seriously, is your family poaching me too? Scarlet gave Zhang Su a wink, if you take a fancy to my sister, I will be very happy. Do you want me to tell you the access code of my dormitory? Zhang Su decisively chose to follow his heart. Ho ha, stop joking, auntie. I'll take it seriously. Harry Potter, who was writing a dissertation at another table next to him, saw the two who were talking and laughing in Chinese just now, and Zhang Su flew to the roof of the ice cream shop in the blink of an eye. With a look of horror on his face, Harry looked at Professor Scarlet, who had just finished eating ice cream, and found that the other party was also staring at him. Scarlet, who was holding an umbrella, went to sit opposite Harry and said to him, you'd better not run around until you catch Sirius Black. Why, Professor Scarlet? Harry asked in amazement, is he going to kill me to avenge his master? Scarlet looked at Harry and said, if there is anyone in this world who will never kill you, I used to think it was Professor Dumbledore, Professor Snape and Black. As for Black now, I say no. Yes. Why? Harry asked. Professor Dumbledore is, needless to say, he is the person you can trust most. Scarlet said, Professor Snape, he and your mother Lily are good friends who grew up together. But Snape who has been targeting me everywhere, said Harry angrily. That's because you look too much like your father, and your father and Professor Snape had a very bad relationship at school, just like you and Draco Malfoy. When Professor Snape saw you, I will think of your father, so don't expect him to be nice to you. If your eyes don't look like your mother, maybe you will be covered by Professor Snape and beat you up. If you look like your mother, maybe Professor Snape will treat you as his own child. The amount of information in Scarlet's words is very huge to Harry, especially when he hears the end. Imagine if Snape is like Mrs. Weasley, holding a pot of soup and calling himself out of the room to eat. When he was eating, he continued to add food to himself with enthusiasm, and when he was knitting sweaters for himself in the office after school, Harry couldn't help shivering. What about Black? Harry pushed Snape, who was knitting himself a sweater, out of his mind, and continued to ask. Scarlet thought for a moment and said, the relationship between Black and your father is just like the relationship between you and Ron Weasley. At school, your father and Sirius Black, Remus Lupin and Pettigrew Peter was an inseparable friend, just like you, Ron Weasley, and Hermione Granger. But I don't know what happened to them after graduation. I followed a whole family to the east not long after graduation. What happened between them after that, I don't know. Harry silently remembered the names of 3 of his father's best friends. Professor Scarlet, are you familiar with my parents? Harry didn't want to give up the chance to get a little information about his parents. I am 3 grades higher than your mother, she is a very smart witch, and we have a good relationship. Scarlet said, as for your father, I have beaten all 4 of them. Harry heard a huge amount of information again. What he heard today made his head hurt, and he needed to sort it out. After chatting for a while about his mother's past at school, Harry said goodbye to Professor Scarlet and left. Then Zhang Su, who had just come down from the roof, sat in Harry's seat just now, and said to Scarlet, is it okay to talk to him about this? What's the problem? Scarlet said, Old Deng and the others don't know what they think, and they always like to hide some things from him. If his mother had a good relationship with me before, I don't care about him. After finishing speaking, Scarlet stood up and went around the table, pulling Zhang Su up and said, no matter what, let's go shopping with my sister today. Harry returned to his room at the Leaky Cauldron and lay there all day. He thought of asking Zhang Su for advice, but he found that Zhang Su was either not in the room, or he was writing something in the room intently, which made Harry feel embarrassed to disturb him. On the last day of summer vacation, someone knocked on the door of Zhang Su's room. Zhang Su put down the pen in his hand and went to open the door, only to find Mr. Arthur Weasley, a wizard with red hair, the signature of the Weasley family, and a beautiful witch that he had never seen standing at the door. Zhang Su took them into his room, and then used transfiguration to transform the original furniture in the room into a large table and chairs. After Zhang Su poured tea for everyone, Weasley introduced the two wizards to Zhang Su. "This is my oldest son, Bill. This is Bill's girlfriend, Clemens Posey." Chapter 79. Mr. Weasley and the three of them came to Zhang Su to open a broom shop. With the energy of the Weasley family, it is not difficult to buy a shop in Diagon Alley, but how to run a shop is the first time for their family. Zhang Su didn't know much about this, so he just told them about price wars and marketing promotions, and let them figure it out by themselves. During dinner time, Zhang Su, the Weasleys, Harry and Hermione had a big meal at the Leaky Cauldron. After dinner, Zhang Su gave Hermione a big bag of dried fish to tease the pet cat she just sold. This was warmly welcomed by Ron, because he thought the cat wouldn't eat his rats after he'd had enough of the jerky, so he also asked Zhang Su for a pack of dried fish, planning to stuff the cat's mouth with dried fish as soon as he saw it. After dinner, Zhang Su went out for a stroll. In Diagon Alley at night, there are occasionally wizards who sell strange things. The distinctive feature of these wizards is that they all wear hoods that make it impossible to see their faces, and they use magic. Changed voice. And these wizards don't just sell things by pulling a customer on the road, they only sell things to those who also hide their heads. Not a few steps after Zhang Su put on the hood, a man with the same hood approached him. "Brother, do you want poison? Is there any poison here?" the hooded man whispered to Zhang Su. Zhang Su blocked his throat and didn't spit it out for a long time. The hooded seller seemed to know what the customer in front of him was thinking, and explained in a low voice, "This herb tastes extremely bitter, and it does not cause any harm to the human body after eating, so it can be used to harm others. But you won't be arrested for it." Zhang Su seemed familiar with this poison. Then the hooded man took out some hay from his sleeve and said, "Preferential price, 1 galleon." Zhang Su looked at the tranquilizing grass in the hooded man's hand, which was exactly the one he gave to the bookstore manager a few days ago. Sure enough, there is no shortage of talents in this world to discover business opportunities. I just hope that he won't meet Hogwarts students who have graduated in the past 2 years, or he might be beaten up. After rejecting the hooded man in front of him, Zhang Su walked around a few more times and found that there was nothing good to buy tonight, so he went back to the Leaky Cauldron to sleep. Early the next morning, without waiting for the Weasleys, Harry, and Hermione, Zhang Su took a taxi to the train station by himself. As soon as he entered the platform, Zhang Su found a stranger in front of the steam locomotive who was incompatible with Hogwarts students. The stranger wore new, perfectly tailored wizard robes and carried a suitcase. Also knew he has a sick face, but his spirit is very good. He looked young, but is well combed. Light brown hair was flecked with gray. "Nice to meet you here, Professor Lupin." Zhang Su stepped forward to greet him. "Ah, hello, Mr. Zhang." Lupin reached out and shook Zhang Su's hand. "The new robe fits well." Zhang Su looked at Lupin's robe and said, "Thanks to Professor Dumbledore, I paid a large amount of salary in advance, otherwise I would have to continue to teach students in a patched robe." Lupin said with a little emotion. "Beginning this year, we new professors can pay 2 months' salary in advance before the start of the semester. Now Hogwarts is not short of money, and professors' salaries and bonuses have been rising in recent years. In the past 2 years, treatment alone, the income from squibs is enough to raise the salaries of professors several times." Zhang Su said. "An NBSP," Lupin caught a certain word in Zhang Su's words. "Are you going to be the acting professor of a certain course?" "Yes, but which one it is, we will know at the opening banquet," Zhang Su said with a smile. "Anyway, he is not the acting professor of defense against the dark arts class." Lupin smiled and said nothing. The two talked while walking, and came to the last carriage of the train. After putting away the suitcase and sitting down, Lupin said to Zhang Su, "Mr. Zhang, how sure are you about the treatment of werewolves?" After making a fortune in curing squibs, Dumbledore began to lead Hogwarts into the medical field and also specially selected ancestral psoriasis, specializing in the treatment of old Chinese medicine and other difficult and miscellaneous diseases to start with. After treating the squib, Dumbledore chose to treat the werewolf, which is more difficult. A year ago, Dumbledore began to implement a plan of combining traditional Chinese and Western medicine to treat werewolves. Up to now, this plan has achieved phased results, and the only thing left is clinical trials. Ever since, Lupin was recruited to Hogwarts by Dumbledore as an experimenter and a professor of defense against the dark arts. Zhang Su really doesn't know about this kind of high-end treatment. He still participates in it as a clerk and liaison officer. He can only see from the report that the chance of cure is, percent to, percent. After receiving Zhang Su's answer, Lupin heaved a sigh of relief. For so many years, the werewolf problem had made him miserable. No one wants to hire a werewolf, which makes Lupin, like other werewolves, wandering and working part-time to make ends meet. If you can get rid of the werewolf state, I believe that most werewolves will pay the full price for it. After the two chatted for a while, the train drove away with a dirty sound. Not long after the train drove, the carriage door was pulled. Lupin turned his head to look in the direction of the car door, and then froze. Zhang Su also looked towards the car door and found Harry's trio standing in front of the car door. "Hey, Harry." Zhang Su greeted Harry. "This is Professor Remus John Lupin, the new Defense Against the Dark Arts professor." As soon as Harry heard Lupin's name, his eyes lit up immediately, and he walked into the carriage and said to Lupin excitedly, "Professor Lupin, I'm Harry Potter. I heard that you are my father's good friend." Lupin, who was excited to see the son of his deceased friend, and Harry, who was even more excited, were stunned for a moment, not knowing how to react. Zhang Su said from the side at this time, "Professor Scarlet told Harry about the four of you at school." Zhang Su and Harry suddenly trembled when they saw Lupin heard the name Scarlet. This aroused Zhang Su's desire to gossip. It seems that what Scarlet said about beating the four of them back then was true, and it seemed that the beating was not light. "Senior Scarlet is really good." Lupin shook his head helplessly and smiled. After Lupin asked Harry and the three to sit down, Harry couldn't wait to ask about Sirius Black. After Lupin thought for a while, he told Harry and them the ins and outs of the Potter's murder. When Zhang Su was listening to the story, he kept paying attention to Ron's pocket, thinking that if Peter Pettigrew escaped at this time, should he just settle this year's matter on the train? As a result, the mouse didn't come out until Lupin finished telling the story of the year. Just then, the train stopped. Chapter 80 Hogwarts number 039, painting style almost fell into the ditch again. Dementors are one of the ugliest things in the world. They haunt the darkest and foulest places, they live in decay and despair, they suck peace, hope and joy out of the air around them. The most effective way to ward off Dementors is to use the Patronus Charm. The Patronus Charm, this ancient and mysterious spell, conjures a magical patronus who is the reflection of all the most positive emotions of the caster. According to the theory of yin and yang, Dementors are creatures of the yin attribute, and Patronus is a curse of the yang attribute, and the two sides are completely opposite. When the Dementors are strong, the wizard will be affected by the Dementors and cannot cast the patron saint spell unless the wizard is strong enough, and when the power of the Patronus Charm is strong enough, this spell can drive out a large group of Dementors. To expand it further, in the world of magic, the opposition between yin and yang, darkness and light, evil and justice exists, and the two sides can eliminate each other. It depends on which side's fist is bigger. Theoretically, pure yang and light magic can destroy Dementors. It's just that in Europe, this kind of pure light magic is very rare. The only known ones so far are the Patronus Charm and the magic that saved Harry's life under Voldemort. According to the commonly used settings in novels, the church that should light up the magic skill tree of the light attribute has never embarked on the path of magic in this world. Zhang Su asked the fat monk about this point, and the fat monk said that there has always been no place for magic in the church. Only for a while, potions, which can be used to treat believers, can be said to be related to magic. In the spirit of research, Zhang Su tinkered with a collection of Dementors in his treasure bag. Offensive props such as the exorcism charms used to clean up Peeves back then are not suitable for use on the train. Although in the many Harry Potter fan novels I read in my previous life, it is a standard plot for the protagonist to be angry at the Dementor on the train, but I am ashamed to say that I am writing a Harry Potter fanfic if this plot does not include a chapter on the water. But Zhang Su can't guarantee that after he beats the Dementor will immediately cower like the one in the novel. If the Dementor chooses to confront him, it will be a disaster for the students on the train. Dementors are also violent institutions under the Ministry of Magic. They usually serve as prison guards, and they can be pulled out to serve as the army when necessary. It is similar to the combination of the armed police and the army in China. In China, the armed police guard the prisons, and the armed police hunt down dangerous prisoners. This is the same as the Dementors usually guard Azkaban, and they are responsible for hunting down Sirius after he escapes from prison. Aurors, by comparison, are more like cops. If 1 or 2 Dementors are really going to be killed, and an attack on the armed forces of a regime is not a joke, they will be shot to death in the United States. Zhang Su fiddled with the treasure bag, which really made him discover a theoretically usable defensive item. The Door God, the god who guards the door, is a kind of painting posted on the door during the Lunar New Year as the guardian god of folk beliefs. People put their statues on the door to drive away evil spirits, guard the house, keep safe, help utilitarianism, and bring good luck, etc. It is a popular patron saint among the Chinese people. Dunyoung Encyclopedia. Next, let's focus on exorcising evil spirits and avoiding ghosts, guarding the house, and keeping safe. In ancient China, magical animals of filthy origin often appeared in the wells. They would run into ordinary people's houses, affecting the normal life of the house owner at the least, and causing the owner to get sick or even die. This type of magical animal naturally belongs to the yin attribute. Therefore, the alchemists at that time made various magic items to protect the safety of ordinary people's homes. At the beginning, runes were carved on the peach wood, so that the peach wood exudes mana of yang attribute, so that those magic creatures of yin attribute cannot enter the house. It is this kind of peach charm that is mentioned in Wang Anshi's Yuan Ri. Thousands of households and thousands of households always exchanged new peaches for old charms. Later, some skilled alchemists used runes in their paintings, and then New Year pictures with the themes of Shinto and Yulei, Kinshubao, Yuchigan and Zhonghui appeared. Soon after, townhouse stone beasts such as stone lions with the same function were also listed. In ancient China, the families and sects of various scholars almost monopolized the markets of peach charms, New Year pictures and townhouse stone beasts in the surrounding towns. In other places, selling peach charms and New Year pictures is an important income for wandering alchemists' input source. Just when Zhang Su was about to take out something from the treasure bag, all the lights went out suddenly, and the people in the carriage were plunged into complete darkness. "What's wrong?" Ron yelled. "Ouch," said Hermione breathlessly. "Ron, that's my foot." Hearing Hermione's words, the Wuling Hongguang's and Zhang Su's mind was activated. Then the carriage door flew open and Neville fell painfully onto Harry's lap. Then Crookshanks experienced Neville's top. Next came Ginny, who was looking for Ron. She bumped into Hermione, who was about to go out, and fell on Zhang Su's lap. "Well, this little girl is more developed than last year," Zhang Su thought. "Quiet," said Lupin, as everyone in the car was jumping around. Then the wand in Lupin's hand glowed like a torch. At this time, several other people came to their senses and took out their wands to cast spells, and the light was restored in the carriage for a while. Taking advantage of this time, Zhang Su picked up Ginny, who fell on his lap, and pushed her to the seat next to her. At this time, the carriage door was opened, and Zhang Su suddenly found a lot of very unpleasant pictures popping up in his head. September number 30 at 4:30 p.m. I was told that I would have to work overtime for the next 7 days. On the way home from get off work, a man rushed out and lay in front of his car. After spending more than 100 million yuan in various resources, he just couldn't get the U-47 out. Zimu Town killed a chicken casually. Scenes of images full of negative energy filled Zhang Su's mind. Startled, Zhang Su immediately cast a spell called Mechanized Mind on himself. In an instant, all emotions such as joy, anger, sorrow and joy in Zhang Su's heart disappeared, and his whole mind was running like a machine. At the same time, all the images in his mind disappeared. Zhang Su saw that Harry was shivering on the seat, and just when Harry was about to fall to the ground, he stepped forward to support Harry and pressed him on the seat. Zhang Su walked to the carriage door, looked at the Dementor outside the door, then closed the carriage door, took out a picture of Zhonghui catching ghosts and pasted it on the glass of the carriage door. In the picture of Zhonghui catching ghosts, the patterns on Zhonghui's clothes suddenly flashed a golden light, and the Dementors outside the carriage seemed to have seen something terrible, and quickly slid away. At this moment, everyone in the carriage felt the warmth return to their bodies. After a while, after realizing that there were no more Dementors coming, Zhang Su thoughtfully took down Zhonghui's portrait, and at the same time released the mechanized mind from his body. Zhang Su turned around and saw Harry hugging the shivering Ginny, Lupin handed a large piece of chocolate to the two of them with a smile on his face. Ron was sulking, Hermione was snickering, and Neville was bewildered force. Then Zhang Su walked out of the carriage and went to other carriages to see how other friends were doing. Along the way, Zhang Su thought about some problems while walking. After discovering that Zhang Kui's picture of catching ghosts was effective for Dementors, he had some ideas that needed to be verified, but he had to capture 1 or 2 Dementors as material. Thinking of Dumbledore's dislike of Dementors wandering around Hogwarts, Zhang Su thought about whether to take the opportunity to sell a pair of stone lions from the evil townhouse to Hogwarts, and place them on both sides of the castle gate. This picture is very beautiful. Think about the Goblet of Fire next year. When the students from the other 2 schools came to Hogwarts, they first passed the specimen of the basilisk, and then entered Hogwarts Castle from between the 2 stone lions. Period. However, considering that the symbol of Gryffindor is a lion, if only putting stone lions would cause dissatisfaction among the other 3 colleges, Dumbledore probably would not do so. How about selling 2 New Year pictures of Shen Tu and Yulei, Qin Shubao and Yu Chicken, or Zhang Kui on the gate of Hogwarts Castle, or simply get a picture with Dumbledore as the theme? No matter how you look at it, this will make Hogwarts painting style even more weird. In the end, Zhang Su suddenly thought that if Hogwarts Castle really wanted to build something to ward off evil spirits, the ghosts of Professor Binns, Nick and Fat Friar in the castle would be cleared out of Hogwarts Castle. Zhang Su had no choice but to give up this idea. Chapter 81. There is only one protagonist in today and number 039's school opening banquet. After the train arrived at the station, the students got off the train amidst all the chaos. The Dementors just now scared the students quite badly. Draco Malfoy's legs were still shaking when he got off the car. Now they are helping their girlfriends, and the single dogs are looking for targets among the first-year students. When we were on the train just now, Zhang Su summoned a group of familiar single dogs, and each gave them a few large pieces of chocolate, and then asked them to comfort the panicked schoolgirls, making Zhang Su feel so lonely among the group of single dogs. Prestige immediately turned into admiration. Even single dogs said that Zhang Su is worthy of being a wizard from China. He first found his girlfriend and then found his girlfriend. In the end, everyone found a girlfriend. The Hogwarts dining hall is still full of laughter today. Thousands of candles suspended in mid-air above the tables illuminate the faces of the students. There were no special surprises in this year's sorting ceremony. When Astoria Greengrass came out, Zhang Su paid special attention to it. The wife of the future Draco Malfoy is still very beautiful, and it is no problem to rank among the top 10 girls in Hogwarts. Period. Zhang Su turned his head to look at Pansy Parkinson next to Draco Malfoy. This girl seemed to be genuinely moved by Draco Malfoy. Saying it's a pity it's not you, stay with me to the end. After the sorting ceremony, Dumbledore stood up and began to speak. To the point, Dementors don't understand pleas or excuses by nature. So I warn each and every one of you, don't give them any excuses to hurt you. I'm counting on the prefects, and our new head boys and the president of the Girls' Student Council. You must ensure that no student will have a conflict with a Dementor. Then Dumbledore continued, what is more pleasing is that this year, I am delighted to welcome 3 new professors to our team. Many students voiced doubts. Xiao Su, aren't there only 2 new faces on the professor's seat? How could there be 3 new professors? Could it be that one of the new professors didn't arrive? Zhang Chu, who was sitting next to Zhang Su, asked. You'll know later, Zhang Su replied calmly, just don't be too surprised then. The first is Professor Lupin, who graciously agreed to fill the vacancy in Defense Against the Dark Arts, said Dumbledore. There was some sporadic, less enthusiastic applause. Only those students who had been in the same compartment as him on the train applauded vigorously, and Zhang Su was one of them. Driven by Zhang Su, the students of Eagle Academy and students from other schools who are familiar with Zhang Su and who recognize Zhang Su's strength also began to applaud, and then the students of the whole school followed suit, making the awkward applause just now become heated. Students who are familiar with Zhang Su know that Zhang Su's knowledge, strength and vision are first-rate. It was Zhang Su who was the first to see Neville Longbottom's talent in herbal medicine, who was still a fool at the time, and the first to say that Hermione Granger's grades from a Muggle family would crush students of the same level, the first student to discover Harry Potter's secret talent, and so on. And the people Zhang Su didn't like to see, such as the professors of the Defense Against the Dark Arts class in the past 2 years, it turned out that they all had problems. Many people even think that Zhang Su is a hidden master of divination. Therefore, The students began to pay attention to the professor Zhang Su recognized. Is this professor very good? Seeing that Zhang Su was so optimistic about Professor Lu Ping, Zhang Chu asked a question that many students were concerned with. It can be said that Zhang Su organized a language. If Professor Dumbledore retires, then the person who will take over as the principal will be Professor McGonagall. If Professor McGonagall becomes the principal, the best candidate for the Dean of Gryffindor College, this is Professor Lupin. Zhang Su didn't deliberately lower his voice. His words were quickly spread through word of mouth among the students in the cafeteria, and there was a burst of exclamation from the long table in the Lion Court. When Zhang Su saw Snape staring at Professor Lupin along the teacher's long table, the expression on his face was distorted. This kind of treatment was only enjoyed by Harry Potter. Zhang Su admired Lupin very much. After going through hardships, he still maintained an optimistic attitude. He was wise, calm, and powerful. It's a pity that he and his wife both died in battle after suffering all the hardships and enjoying the short-term happiness. In the story, his son later hooks up with Bill and Fleur's daughter, so maybe he will become his in-laws in this life? Zhang Su couldn't help thinking also it is to help him. Zhang Su secretly made up his mind. Anyway, it doesn't matter to Zhang Su whether the plot plays or not. He doesn't rely on the foresight of the plot to make a living. He relies on the country behind him. As long as the interests are sufficient, it is not impossible for the country to send a bunch of people to help Dumbledore kill Voldemort. For the matter of borrowing troops from foreigners to assist in the suppression, the Qing dynasty approached Britain in the past, and now the reverse is no problem. Come on, gentlemen of the Ministry of Magic, as long as you sign this treaty, not to mention the suppression of Voldemort, it is not impossible to discuss the suppression of Dumbledore. By the way, Dumbledore raised his hands and pressed them down, and the students' discussion stopped. The second professor we have appointed, continued Dumbledore, well, I regret to inform you that Professor Kettleburn, our Care of Magical Creatures teacher, retired at the end of last year in order to spend more time with him. The rest of the rascals stay together. I am happy to say, however, that it was none other than Rubius Hagrid to fill his place, and Hagrid has agreed to be a professor in addition to his job as gamekeeper. There was applause, especially on the Gryffindor table. But many students stopped applauding when they saw that Zhang Su didn't applaud, but had a expression on his face. The scene was very embarrassing. Zhang Chu looked at Zhang Su suspiciously, but Zhang Su shook his head lightly and said nothing. After seeing this scene, the hearts of the students who had chosen the Protection of Magical Creatures class thumped, and they all felt like they had taken a pill. First-year freshmen feel bewildered. The first professor's welcome applause was not warm, but the surrounding seniors and seniors clapped after seeing a Ravenclaw student applauding enthusiastically. The second professor's applause was originally quite enthusiastic, but when everyone discovered that the Ravenclaw student was not applauding, the applause stopped abruptly. So the newcomers asked the surrounding seniors and sisters about the student's situation. Soon, Dumbledore's voice broke the awkward scene. As for the third professor we appointed, said Dumbledore, Professor Carrie Dimage of Muggle Studies submitted an application to me last year. Then she will live in Muggle society for a few years, and after a few years, she will return to Hogwarts as a professor of Muggle Studies. According to the basic law of Hogwarts, current students can be the teaching assistant of a professor of a certain course. When the professor is unable to attend the class due to something, the assistant will serve as an acting professor to teach the students. Therefore, we decided to appoint an outstanding student to be the acting professor of the Muggle Studies class. Having said that, Dumbledore paused for a while, and the students in the cafeteria started talking. Only the 7th-year students remembered that Hogwarts had appointed a student to be a teaching assistant for history of magic long ago. As a result, that student became the saddest teaching assistant in Hogwarts history. The students who had purchased the textbooks of the Muggle Studies class seemed to realize something and looked at the long table in the Eagle Academy. Dumbledore saw that the students initially digested the news, and then said, I am happy to tell you that Mr. Zhang Su from Ravenclaw College will serve as the acting professor of the Muggle Studies class. He has agreed to complete his course. In addition, he also serves as the acting professor of Muggle Studies. After Dumbledore announced the news, there was an instant silence in the cafeteria. Then, warm applause and cheers exploded in an instant. Zhang Su stood up, smiled and nodded to the applauding and cheering students. The banquet began amidst heated discussions, and the fear caused by the Dementors had disappeared. When you entered the castle, you saw the basilisk in front of the castle gate. You must know whoever the basilisk stares at directly will die immediately. It was Professor Zhang who asked Peeves to destroy one of the basilisk's eyes. Afterwards, he personally destroyed the other eye of the basilisk. When fighting the basilisk, Professor Zhang stood at the front all the time. I went to the back to rest twice, but Professor Zhang did not rest once. Once, the basilisk pounced on me, and its mouth could swallow a whole person in one gulp. When the basilisk's mouth was less than 2 feet away from me, it was Professor Zhang who was beside me who beat the basilisk's head with a spell. It's off, or the one sitting next to you is a ghost. Then the ugly liar Lockhart who was caught earlier woke up and knocked out 2 students a little in front of our position. At this time Professor Zhang rushed in, covered the evacuation of the students in the auditorium, and finally defeated the ugly liar by himself. The students who had fought side by side with Zhang Su spared no effort to introduce Zhang Su's great achievements to the new students, and by the way, blow themselves out. After returning to the common room, Zhang Su ushered in the warmest celebration from the students of Eagle Academy. The students threw Zhang Su high over and over again, until one time they threw it too hard and hit Zhang Su to the ceiling with a snap. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 82 Hogwarts professors are hardworking. At breakfast the next day, Zhang Su got his timetable. When Zhang Su lived in the leaky cauldron before school started, Professor McGonagall went to Diagon Alley to find him once for the class schedule. In Zhang Su's room at the leaky cauldron, Zhang Su and Professor McGonagall sat opposite each other in front of the table transformed by Zhang Su's shape-shifting technique. Mr. Zhang, starting next semester, you will be the acting professor of Muggle Studies. Since you need to teach Muggle Studies while completing your own courses, I would like to ask for your opinion when arranging the class schedule. Professor McGonagall said. Seeing that it was about the class schedule, Zhang Su also had a headache. The professors at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry are very hard-working. Students after the 3rd grade need to study the 8 compulsory courses of Transfiguration, Charms, Potions, Herbalism, Defense Against the Dark Arts, Astronomy, History of Magic and Mathematics. Take at least 2 electives from Care of Magical Creatures, Divination, Arithmancy and Muggle Studies. The professor of compulsory courses has to teach 7 grades, and the professor of elective courses has to teach 5 grades. In the 1st to 5th grades before the OWLS exam, compulsory courses such as Potions and Herbalism are taught by 2 colleges together, so the professors of these 2 courses will teach 10 classes from 1st to 5th grades, and there are 4 classes in the 6th and 7th grades, a total of, classes. For compulsory courses such as Defense Against the Dark Arts and Transfiguration, each class is taught by a college, so the professors of these 2 courses will teach a total of 28 classes from the 1st to 5th grades and 8 classes from the 6th and 7th grades. There are, classes in class. The professors of elective courses couldn't relax too much. The elective courses were taught by 2 colleges at a time, and they had to teach 10 classes from grades 3 to 7. Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Witchcraft and Witchcraft and Witchcraft is from Monday to Friday every week, excluding the astronomy course in the evening. There are 4 classes a day, 2 classes in the morning and 2 classes in the afternoon. Each class is 1.5 hours, and there are 10 minutes between classes for students to rush to the classroom of the next class. Zhang Su remembered that in the story, Hermione had to take 3 elective courses at the same time, excluding a top student like Hermione. If any student only took 2 elective courses, and both of these elective courses were included in these 3 courses, then this student would cry. Thinking of such a situation, Zhang Su felt that arranging classes was simply a killing feast for brain cells, and it was really embarrassing for Professor McGonagall. This year's schedule is really difficult to arrange. Zhang Su thought for a while and said, I suggest that the Muggle Studies class be changed to teach 4 colleges at the same time, so that I only need 5 classes a week. 1 class, exactly 1 class a day from Monday to Friday. Professor McGonagall thought for a while and replied, if you think you can teach students from 4 colleges at once, you can agree to that. Because there are not many students who choose Muggle Studies courses, and there are not many students from the 4 colleges taking classes together. I want to know how the school arranges if students have conflicts in the class time of elective courses, Zhang Su asked. We will persuade students to choose other electives that do not conflict with time. Professor McGonagall replied. I heard that Hermione has chosen all the courses, and I don't think she will give up any of them easily. Zhang Su said. Yes, the school has special arrangements for Miss Granger. Every time Professor McGonagall mentioned Hermione, she always showed a very pleased expression. Then, Professor McGonagall told Zhang Su about the time converter. Every professor knows about this, so Zhang Su can also know about it. Zhang Su kept this time turner at a respectful distance. Who knew what restrictions this time turner had on the user? At least Dumbledore couldn't use it, otherwise Voldemort would have been played to death by Dumbledore. Zhang Su read a very good Harry Potter fanfic in his previous life. In it, the protagonist and Hermione had problems using the time converter, and they went to the era of King Mau Mau, and then Hermione's stock skyrocketed. Zhang Su felt that it was enough for him to travel to this world, and if he got out of the game and traveled again, he would not be able to play Infinite Flow if you traveled to the world of the two-dimensional harem, with the Irg in your left hand and Azumio in your right, a group of twin schoolmates, classmates, female teachers, childhood sweethearts, daughters, blonde hair, black hair, brown hair, silver hair, long hair, medium-length hair, and short hair, clear soup noodle, straight curly hair, iron perm, double ponytail, single ponytail, double braid, single braid, wavy curly hair, sailor suit uniform, sports uniform, judo uniform, archery uniform, nanny, nursemaid, maid, policeman, witch, nun, military secretary, lolite, sundeer, girl, cheerleader, stewardess, waitress, black gothic dress, white gothic dress, chong sam, sick, beautiful girl, white wave, paranoia, dual personality, queen, princess, stockings, garter, belt, dress up man, glasses, eye mask, bandage, school swimsuit, one piece swimsuit, bikini swimsuit, v-shaped swimsuit, string swimsuit, monster, ghost, animaliers. Girl is okay. In case of going to the Cambrian and Triassic, it is better to just wipe your neck. So Zhang Su gave up the idea of looking for a time converter in the future. After thinking for a while, Zhang Su said to McGonagall, Professor McGonagall, why don't you give me the task of arranging this class, and I will complete it as perfectly as possible. You confirm that you can do this job well. Out of a sense of responsibility for his job, Professor McGonagall raised questions to Zhang Su. No problem. Zhang Su said affirmatively, as long as you give me the student roster of the whole school, the list of all elective courses and the arrangement requirements of other courses, I can complete the arrangement of the school's class schedule in one day. Professor McGonagall thought about it. Arranging classes every year would give her headaches for several days. It would be okay if Zhang Su could take over. So Professor McGonagall agreed to Zhang Su's request, and at the same time took out a thick stack of relevant materials from her handbag, and put all the materials in front of Zhang Su. After Zhang Su roughly read all the materials, he took out 2 black boxes under the surprised eyes of Professor McGonagall. Zhang Su turned on the laptop he bought just last month, connected it to a power bank, and started writing course scheduling software. It is not difficult for Zhang Su to write class scheduling software, but the trouble is to enter the student's information into the computer. Zhang Su, who is immersed in entering student information, thought that since there is a quill for automatic writing, whether it is possible to make a mechanical hand that can automatically type, or even an automatic keyboard and mouse set, it should be very popular if it can be made. When the power bank was only 6, Zhang Su finally used the class scheduling software to arrange the most suitable class schedule for Hogwarts this year. In this schedule, Zhang Su put his Muggle Studies class in the last class every afternoon. In terms of other course arrangements, we try our best to avoid course conflicts between students in elective courses, and also consider the rest time of professors. In the end, the order of the daily classes was specially optimized for Hermione so that her liver would not be overwhelmed. Professor McGonagall, who had learned how to use the mouse, browsed through all the timetables written by Zhang Su, and found that the timetables were comprehensive, and he couldn't find any faults. After Professor McGonagall made a decision, Zhang Su came to the embassy with a 3.5-inch disk where the class schedule was stored, printed a class schedule for every student in Hogwarts, and sent it together with a printed fee reimbursement voucher to Professor McGonagall. Chapter 83. Please look at the big screen. In the last class in the afternoon of the first day of Hogwarts this semester, the third-year students came to the Muggle Studies classroom with great curiosity. The classroom of the Muggle Studies class has been transformed into an amphitheater. When sitting in a seat, there is no need to be afraid of being blocked by the heads of the students in front of the seat. On the windowless side of the classroom is a row of shelves covered by curtains, so students cannot see what is on the shelves. The front of the classroom is a huge glass screen, and the professor's seat has been moved from the middle of the classroom to the left. The names of many students are displayed on the screen. When the students walk into the classroom, they will see their names on the screen change from gray to gold. At the bottom of the screen, if you get closer, you will see the red Changhong logo. Zhang Su sat behind the podium, looking at the magic version of the tablet controller in his hand, which looked like a future tablet computer. The automatic roll call system was displayed on the big screen in front of the classroom simultaneously. This automatic roll call system was developed by Zhang Su based on Marauder's map technology, which can automatically display and record the situation of different students entering the classroom, as well as the time of entry. Because electronic products cannot be used in Hogwarts Castle, Zhang Su purchased a spell version playback system from China. Only then did he realize that the magic version of the TV had almost reached the level of the TV 20 years later in terms of playback effect. The disadvantage is that it is impossible to directly receive the wired and wireless signals of the TV, and it has to be converted by equipment, and the conversion time is too long to be broadcast live. However, it is still possible to play movies and play PPT. Since the students are looking forward to today's class, the staff is due 5 minutes before the class starts. Zhang Su started playing a short video after the name of the last student on the class list was lit up. The screen suddenly went black, then gradually brightened, showing the entrance hall of Hogwarts Castle. At the same time, low-pitched music sounded. The students saw the basilisk appear on the screen with Lockhart on the stairs in the foyer. At the same time, the music in the classroom became tense. Suddenly, accompanied by high-pitched background music, Peeves carrying 2 packs of quicklime soared down from the sky, covering the basilisk's face. When Peeves was stared at by the other eye of the basilisk, the background music became tragic with a slow motion of Peeves turning into black smoke. Then there's the suicide attack launched by 5 death squads under the majestic background music. The end of this scene ends with 2 petrified students falling to the ground in slow motion under the leadership of the overhead view. Next, the scene of Zhang Su rushing out and throwing a grenade to blow up the other eye of the basilisk flashed by, and the scene quickly changed to the students attacking the basilisk together. The professor came to rescue after several dangers, opening the passage to cover the evacuation of the students from the cafeteria, and the scene where Scarlet blocked the basilisk by himself on the stairs. The background music also became more exciting. On the screen, the scene of fighting the basilisk has both an aerial perspective and the number 1 perspective of the students, and there is even a shot of the basilisk's big mouth less than 2 feet in front of the camera. At the end of the short film, Dumbledore's Phoenix sent Harry Potter the Sorting Hat and Gryffindor sword, and then the audience followed Harry Potter from the perspective of Harry Potter to catch the Phoenix's leg and fly to the basilisk on the top of the head. Justice descended from heaven and pierced the basilisk to death with a sword. In the end, the whole short film ended with a close-up of Harry Potter's face from far to near. At the end of the short film, the students in the classroom responded with warm applause. The students who appeared in the video began to brag. After deciding to fight a basilisk in the hallway, Zhang Su entrusted a group of ghosts to help place the video crystals in various places in the hallway. After finishing work, Zhang Su discovered that these video crystals were not burned by the eyes of the basilisk. It is estimated that the eyes of the basilisk would only burn things in the path of vision when there were creatures behind them. Zhang Su didn't go into this kind of magic but unscientific thing. Later, Zhang Su copied these video crystals and the videos stored in the video brooches worn by himself and Harry, edited them and added burning songs as BG to create this short video. In his previous life, when Zhang Su was in college, he often edited various short videos and uploaded them to Kpili. He has rich experience in this regard. Now it seems that the effect of the short film is good, and the reaction of the audience in the classroom is very strong. When the students quieted down a bit, it was time for class. Zhang Su replaced the content on the big screen with the words Muggle Studies Class and walked to the center of the podium. Looking at the quiet students, Zhang Su said to the students, "Welcome everyone to choose the Muggle Studies class. In this class, you can let your wands rest for a while." The students in the seats laughed. Zhang Su went on to say, "Although everyone's wands can rest, the brain cannot rest. On the moon, is it a human or a ghost? What is hidden behind the birth of the steam engine? Why do wars in the world break out frequently? The development of science and technology, who is behind all this? Is it the progress of Muggles or the decline of tradition? Is it the outbreak of technology? The helplessness of survival? Please pay attention to the Muggle Studies class. Let us follow the textbook, walk into the life of Muggles, and reveal the secrets behind the Muggle world for you. Next, I will announce some rules for adding and deducting points in our classroom. Students who are late, 1 point will be deducted for every minute late. Students who need to ask for leave, please hand over the leave note signed by your dean to me before 3 o'clock that day, or entrust your dean to give it to me. During class, you can be in a daze, sleep and do homework on other subjects just like you are in a history of magic class. But there is one thing, you can't disturb other students who want to study in any way, such as snoring while sleeping. There was a burst of laughter from the students. If anyone affects other students who want to study, 5 points will be deducted for each student affected. Plus, no matter how well you perform in class, I treat any student's assignments and tests the same. Speaking of homework, I don't want you to copy the homework of other students. If I find anyone whose homework is a lot of the same, I will treat them well. Please believe me, your experience in plagiarizing homework is not as rich as mine. The students burst into laughter again. After talking about the sad deduction points, let's talk about the pleasant plus points. After I ask a question, whoever raises your hand first will answer the question. 1 point is added to the basic score for the correct answer, and then depending on the completeness and depth of the answer, the extra points are set in 5 grades from 1 point to 5 points. Then Zhang Su waved his magic wand, and a hummingbird with blue light flew out from the podium. The hummingbird will fly itself to the head of the student with the fastest hand raised, so whoever it flies to will answer the question. When a classmate asks a question, with my consent, whichever classmate can answer his question can also get extra points. But don't let anyone think of colluding to get extra points. This will not deceive me and hummingbirds. That's it, anyone object. The students in their seats shook their heads. Then let's start our first learning content. Zhang Su said, today we first learn about the history of the development of the Muggle world. Zhang Su walked to the podium. Next, please watch the big screen. I will play a documentary about world history. Record any questions you have while watching, and you can ask questions after the documentary is played. The students began to concentrate on watching the documentary played on the big screen. The 1-hour documentary tells the historical process of human society from the Stone Age to the disintegration of the Soviet Union, and focuses on the development of science and technology after World War II and after the war. The students, who had never experienced this kind of class experience, watched the content on the big screen attentively. The 1-hour documentary cannot tell the history of the development of human society in too much detail, and Zhang Su only gave the students a preliminary impression of the history of the Muggle world, so that they would not be like some wizards, thinking that the Muggle world is still the same as them stay in the Middle Ages. At first, Zhang Su found that most of the students who took this course were students from Snake Academy, which surprised him very much. After asking the familiar students of the Snake Academy, the students of the Snake Academy said that they need to learn because they don't understand, which made Zhang Su feel relieved. Therefore, Zhang Su chose the method of crushing their 3 views from the very beginning through documentaries focusing on the Second World War, aerospace technology, nuclear weapons and other scientific and technological achievements, allowing them to re-understand the Muggle world at the end of the century. From the expressions on the faces of the students, it can be seen that this method has been successful. The war machines during World War II, the atomic bomb explosion and the ruins after the explosion, and the moon landing pictures of the Apollo project shocked all the little wizards from the wizard family. The same event, the feeling of watching a documentary is not comparable to reading a book in the reading room before. After the documentary was played, the students asked various questions, which mainly focused on technology after World War II. From the use of electrical appliances to whether Zhang Su will make an atomic bomb, there are all kinds of questions. Even Malfoy, whose right arm was wrapped in a bandage, raised his left hand and asked Zhang Su eagerly how he could become an astronaut. Fortunately, Zhang Su has a wealth of knowledge and can answer all kinds of questions. The end of get out of class time came amidst all kinds of questions and answers. After arranging for the students to write a review of the documentary, Zhang Su announced the dismissal of the get out of class. Chapter 84 After School Classroom, Male Teacher, Female Students. Zhang Su's first class was very successful. After class, many students did not leave the classroom. They asked Zhang Su to play the short video of fighting the basilisk played before class again. After all the students in the classroom left satisfied, Zhang Su came to sit next to Hermione's seat that he had left behind. After school classrooms, male teachers, and female students, when these keywords are combined, countless old drivers will start driving. Unfortunately, because the author's niece is reading this book, the car cannot be driven. Hermione, How are you doing today? Zhang Su asked. Very busy, I can't relax in every class. Hermione wondered why Zhang Su asked her to stay. Don't use the time converter too frequently, just use it according to the schedule arranged for you, and pay attention to rest at ordinary times. Zhang Su said to Hermione. You know, Hermione asked in surprise. Every professor knows that. Zhang Su said, this year's class schedule is specially arranged by me for your class schedule. Hermione looked at Zhang Su excitedly. However, I suggest that you reduce your elective courses. For example, divination in my Muggle Studies course can be given up, so that your class schedule can be normal. Zhang Su continued. No. Hermione said while shaking her head, I can't miss any homework. But these two courses are not suitable for you. Zhang Su explained to Hermione, as far as my Muggle Studies course is concerned, this course is no longer the usual way of looking at Muggles from the perspective of wizards, but it is to teach wizards a correct understanding of Muggle society. You must have read the textbooks, so are you going to learn how to use TV sets, air conditioners, washing machines, refrigerators, water heaters and disinfection cabinets here this year, or how to take the subway? But Hermione was at a loss for words for a while. The main content of the Muggle Studies class in the third year. There is also divination class. Zhang Su continued to explain to Hermione, with all due respect, your talent in divination is not as high as your talent in Quidditch. Zhang Su's words made Hermione laugh. It's true. Zhang Su shrugged, your characteristic is that you are very rational, and you have fully thought through everything you do. Hermione thought for a while, then nodded in acquiescence. Divination requires sensibility, grasping the light in the twilight, but you are very bad at this. Even Harry and Ron are the same. I bet they will make up their homework in future divination classes. In the past. And you and Professor Trelawney have opposite personalities, and sooner or later there will be conflicts between you. Your personality is similar to that of Professor McGonagall. Think about how Professor McGonagall thinks of Professor Trelawney. Hermione thought about what happened in divination class and transfiguration class today, and nodded. The most important point is that although you can go back in time when using the time turner, your physical growth will not go backwards. This will cause your body to age inconsistent with normal time growth. In our opinion, it will accelerate aging. Zhang Su said. Aging is the natural enemy of women. Even Hermione, who was born in 1979 and only turned 14 in a few days, became serious after hearing this. Then Zhang Su took a glass bottle full of potion and put it on the desk in front of Hermione. Hermione looked at Zhang Su, who was filled with a faint pink potion, and looked at Zhang Su with a little weird eyes. Pink represents warmth, romance and love. When Hermione saw Zhang Su handing her such a bottle of pink potion, she couldn't help thinking too much for a while. It's a potion of living hell. You press the label on the bottle every day before you go to bed, drink the upper amount and it will put you into deep sleep. Get enough quality sleep if you don't want to overwhelm your body with too many classes. Zhang Su explained. Hearing the name of the potion, Hermione's mastery attribute burst out instantly. She had only seen this kind of high-level potion in books, and she didn't recognize it when she saw the real thing for the first time. Hermione picked up the potion and looked at it carefully for a while, then opened the bottle and smelled the smell, and then asked Zhang Su how it was made. Seeing, smelling, asking, and knowing almost came together. Seeing that Hermione planned to taste it on the spot, Zhang Su hurriedly stopped her. If Hermione slept in the classroom, he wouldn't be able to clean himself up even if he jumped into the Thames. If the incident happens again, it cannot be solved by kneeling on the durian skin, at least kneeling on the ants to start, because ants cannot run, nor can they be crushed to death. At this moment, the door of the classroom was opened, and with the sound of opening the door, an exaggerated surprised voice sounded. Ah, did I disturb you? Zhang Su had black lines all over his head, and Hermione fell into embarrassment. Someone came to Zhang Su and Hermione, looked at the hell potion on Hermione's table, and said to Zhang Su in faint surprise, Ah, you are actually going to drug Miss Granger. How could little girl Hermione stand up to this kind of joke? She hurriedly picked up her school bag and medicine bottle and ran out of the classroom. Now the situation in the teachers has become, after school classrooms, female teachers, and male students. Professor Scarlet, what's the matter? Zhang Su asked the visitor. Why, interrupt your tryst and blame me? Don't talk nonsense. I do have a girlfriend. If it spreads out, it won't affect you well. You know about Miss Granger's class schedule. I'll give her a bottle of living hell potion so that she can have a good rest. Hey, We called her Hermione when we were 2, but now we call her Miss Granger in front of outsiders. Show your weapons, Auntie. 10 minutes later, Zhang Su, who was beaten up, followed Scarlet to Professor McGonagall's office. In Professor McGonagall's office, except for Trelawney and Hagrid, other professors arrived one after another. After Zhang Su found a seat in the corner and sat down, he learned from Scarlet, who was sitting beside him, that there was going to be a meeting to discuss Hagrid's affairs. Zhang Su has learned from other students today that during Hagrid's protection of magical creatures class this afternoon, the hippogriff grabbed Draco Malfoy with its claws. Later, because of the author's carelessness, Draco Malfoy, who was supposed to lie in the school infirmary for 4 days, was dragged from the school infirmary to the classroom by the author for a Muggle studies class, and was sent back to the school infirmary by the author after class lying down. Zhang Su admired Professor McGonagall's resoluteness, and held a meeting to resolve the matter after class. Now Dumbledore has handed over more power to Professor McGonagall, and this kind of matter that should have been handled by Dumbledore has also been handed over to Professor McGonagall, and Professor McGonagall's prestige value is not as high as that of Dumbledore, so Professor McGonagall had to hold a meeting to coordinate all aspects of the matter that was originally settled by Dumbledore. At the meeting, Zhang Su and Scarlet were fishing at the sidelines. One said that he was just an acting professor, and the other said that he had only come to Hogwarts for more than a year and would not express any opinions. The other professors also laughed and went through the motions. Everyone knows that Hagrid is Dumbledore's confidant, and no one will suffer in this regard. So at the meeting, it was mainly Snape and Lupin who were fighting each other. Snape asked for Hagrid to be fired, while Lupin tried to protect Hagrid. The final result was to give Hagrid a warning. As for the hippogriff, it became Hagrid's scapegoat. Chapter 85 Laughter in the Teachers and Number 039, Lounge. Due to the presence of Dementors outside Hogwarts and the possible invasion of Sirius, it was impossible to go outside the castle after dark this semester, so everyone had to change the activity location to an empty classroom in the castle. The 5th floor, which was originally empty, has now become the activity center for the students. After Zhang Su watched the live video of the new AC Milan game in the Muggle Studies classroom, he planned to go to the kitchen to get something to eat. The 9334 season is the last year of the Milan dynasty. Zhang Su, who liked AC Milan very much in his previous life, was rewarded with all kinds of weird candies in the magic world. He asked another staff member of the embassy, who is also an AC Milan fan, to help transcribe all the matches of AC Milan this season. When Zhang Su walked into the foyer, he saw that Hagrid was sending Harry's trio, who were looking for him, back to the castle gate. Seeing Zhang Su walking down the stairs, Harry and the three of them had just greeted each other when they suddenly realized that Zhang Su now has the right to add and deduct points to the college, and this semester the school forbids leaving the castle after dark. The three who were caught were very embarrassed. Cry Finder, 1 point will be deducted from each of you. The next time you find out that you have left the castle at night, you will deduct 2 points from each of you. If you find out again, you will be deducted in an equal ratio. I hope you will be serious in Professor Scarlet's class. Listen. Before the three of Harry tried to make excuses, Zhang Su deducted points. Points were deducted by Zhang Su, and the three of them who originally wanted to find something to do with Zhang Su walked back to the dormitory in a dispirited manner. After lunch on Thursday, in the teacher's lounge, Zhang Su, who was resting here after lunch, was staring at a bottle of green shrink potion that he had just prepared in the potions class in the morning. He casually asked Snape various questions about the shrinking potion. For example, what is the limit of the shrink potion? Can it turn a chicken back into an egg? Can it turn a mature woman back into a lolly? Etc. Then Zhang Su asked Professor Snape about the progress in the purification of the active ingredients of his recent potion materials. This topic was obviously more in line with Snape's appetite than turning a mature woman into Lolita, which made Snape a little interested in talking. As a result, Zhang Su changed the subject. Professor Snape, don't you plan to find a good girl to marry in the future? As soon as Zhang Su finished speaking, several other professors in the faculty lounge, who had been doing their own thing, turned their gazes to Snape's face. Everyone saw that Snape's face was paler than Dumbledore's beard. Don't worry about it, Mr. Zhang. After a while, Snape growled viciously at Zhang Su. I found that the proportion of students who have found a significant other recently is much higher than the previous 2 years, so it is right to care about colleagues who are in difficulties. Zhang Su continued, compared to nostalgia for the past, I think grasping the present and it is more important to grasp the future. What do you know? Please don't make ridiculous comments about things you don't know anything about, Snape said. I just know what I know. Zhang Su didn't continue. Although he and Snape got along quite well in the past 2 years, if this topic continues, it will only attract the attention of the gods. If he could take this opportunity to open a hole in Snape's heart, maybe he would have a happy ending in the future. Professor Lupin. Zhang Su continued. Lupin, who was preparing for the afternoon class, couldn't help being startled when he heard that Zhang Su turned his finger on him. Several other professors also started looking at Lupin. Professor Lupin, you will meet a good girl in a few years, so hurry up and hope you don't give up. Zhang Su said. Edge gave Lupin a thumbs up. I was suddenly said by Zhang Su. Lupin didn't know what to say for a while. I'm too poor and too dangerous. After Lupin finished speaking, he realized that there was something wrong with what he said. Remus, I think Mr. Zhang is right. Professor McGonagall suddenly launched an assist. She knew Lupin very well, and was once Lupin's professor, so she put on the airs of an elder and said that Lupin would be suitable. With your current salary, you have already got rid of poverty. In a short time, you will no longer be in danger. It is time for you to think about this issue. Professor McGonagall said. You don't know, back then you were very popular in the circle of our Ravenclaw seniors. If you weren't too dull and indifferent to the hints of the seniors, you would have found a girlfriend at that time. That's it. Scarlet added a knife. With your current conditions, you are still very attractive to little girls. How is it possible? Said Lupin. I'm old too. Amidst Sriket's cough, Lupin didn't dare to speak anymore. Helson, Professor Flitwick interjected at this time. What about you? I remember you didn't have a boyfriend when you were studying at Hogwarts. We met after our family moved to the east. After Sriket finished speaking, he sighed and looked up at the ceiling of the faculty lounge at a 45-degree angle. Zhang Su smelled gossip, and just about to ask, he suddenly felt his heart beating violently, as if a voice told him in his mind, don't ask if you don't want to end up. So Zhang Su obeyed decisively. Why didn't you catch it? Professor McGonagall asked. Some words were more appropriate for her to ask. I can't catch it. Sriket said while sighing. I'm late. For a while, the other professors didn't know what to say, but Snape felt a feeling of sympathy. Zhang, asked Professor Sprout, who had been eating melons and watching the show, how did you know that Professor Lupin would meet a good girl in a few years? Several other professors discovered this problem. I just did a fortune-telling for Professor Lupin on a whim. The result of the fortune-telling said that Professor Lupin will meet a good girl who loves him deeply in a few years. Before I graduate from Hogwarts, he will be a father. Zhang Su replied. The professors all laughed and began to make fun of Lupin, who was getting more and more embarrassed, except for Snape, who was still looking gloomy. Zhang Su wanted to laugh when he saw this scene, hoping that his divination called spoiler would come true. Zhang, what are your plans with your little French girlfriend? Professor Flitwick directed the fire to Zhang Su at this time. As a result, Zhang Su was caught by the eyes of the professors. After graduating from Hogwarts, I will go back to Huaxia to study in university. We will get married after graduating from university. Zhang Su had a thick skin, and spoke out their future plans openly. After Zhang Su finished speaking, he suddenly realized that he had become an old general on the stage, with flags all over his back. Actually, you can get married in the UK first. You are just at the right age after graduation. Maybe you can get married with Professor Lupin or Professor Snape in the future. Sreket said. At this moment, there was a lot of laughter in the teacher's lounge. Chapter 86. The afternoon class time came amidst laughter in the faculty lounge, and the professors got up and went to the classroom to start the afternoon class. Professor Sreket, this bottle of shrinking potion is for you. Zhang Su handed the bottle full of shrinking potion to Sreket. Why did you give it to me? Sreket, who was about to go to class, asked with a strange expression on his face. Did you rely on this potion to maintain your current figure and appearance? Zhang Su said naturally. Slay Carter. Not long after class, Professor Lupin brought a group of lion cubs to the faculty lounge. Many students came to the faculty lounge for the first time, and they were obviously very curious about the long, new sofa and coffee table in the middle of the room. The first few students who entered the faculty lounge even saw Professor Snape with a strange smile on his face. After Professor Lupin came in, when he was about to close the door behind him, Snape said with a sarcastic smile on his lips, "Don't close it, Lupin. I'd better not look." He stood up and walked past the class, his black robe fluttering behind him. On the porch, Snape turned and said, "Probably no one warned you, Lupin, that there are more fantastic animals in the staff room than you can imagine." Then Snape glanced at Neville among the students, and said again, "I advise you not to ask Neville Longbottom to do anything difficult during the actual operation, unless Miss Granger whispers something in his ear. Instruct." Although Neville was a blockbuster in last year's final exam, the fear left by Snape in the first grade was still too deep in his heart. In potions class, when Snape walked within 5 feet of Neville, trembling hands and feet, lack of concentration, causing him frequent accidents in potions class. Neville blushed, and the other students glared at Snape as if trying to make him pregnant. "I originally wanted Neville to be my assistant in the first phase of the operation," Professor Lupin said. "I'm sure he will do well." Snape's lips puckered, but he left, slamming the door shut. "Come here, everyone," said Professor Lupin, beckoning the class to the end of the lounge. There was nothing there but an old wardrobe where the teachers kept their extra robes. Professor Lupin walked over to the closet and stood still, and the closet suddenly shook, banging against the wall. "Don't worry," Professor Lupin said calmly, because at this moment several students jumped back in fright. "There's a Boggart inside." Most people feel that there is something to worry about. Neville glanced at Professor Lupin with terror in his eyes, and Seamus Finnegan peeked in fear at the now shaking cabinet doorknob. "Boggarts like dark, enclosed spaces," said Professor Lupin, "wardrobes, voids under beds, cupboards under sinks. I once came across one hidden in an old grandfather's clock. This one was yesterday afternoon. Moving in, I asked the principal if the faculty could leave it alone and give my third graders some practice. So, the first question we have to ask ourselves is, what is a Boggart?" Then Professor Lupin started the on-site teaching, introducing to the students the characteristics of the Boggart and its weakness of not being able to deal with more than 2 people at the same time. Professor Lupin then taught the students the funny spell to use against Boggarts. Finally, Professor Lupin encouraged Neville, who was the first to appear. "When the Boggart rushes out of the closet, Neville, and sees you, it will take on Professor Snape's appearance," said Professor Lupin. "And you, hold your wand like this and yelling funny and try to focus, thinking about your grandma's clothes. If all goes well, Professor Boggart Snape will be forced to become a man wearing a hat with a stuffed vulture on his head, wearing a green suit, and carrying a large red handbag." The whole class laughed. And the wardrobe shook even more. "I'll count to 3, Neville," said Professor Lupin, pointing his wand at the wardrobe as well. 1, 2, 3. There was a burst of sparks from the end of Professor Lupin's wand, and the spark hit the wardrobe door handle. The closet door opened, and a figure-like figure rushed out of the closet. A nervous Neville raised his wand. Funny Zhang-Su tied into rice dumplings, "Don't shoot me." Professor Lupin and a group of lion cubs were all in a daze. They agreed to become Snape's Boggart, but why did they become Zhang-Su, who was tied up? Could it be that what Neville is most afraid of is not Snape, but Zhang-Su? I heard that Neville and Zhang-Su have a very good relationship. Zhang-Su has been helping Neville since the 1st grade. He also saw Neville's talent in herbal medicine and recommended Neville to Sprout Professor. Moreover, Neville's parents were cured only with Zhang-Su's help, so Neville has always been very grateful to Zhang-Su. Could it be that something unspeakable and terrible happened between Neville and Zhang-Su without their knowledge? Looking at Zhang-Su, who is wearing a long dress embroidered with lace, a tall hat with a moth-eaten old stuffed eagle on top, and a huge scarlet handbag dangling in his hand, a group of onlookers instantly filled their brains with hundreds of thousands of words of love and hatred between the two. At this moment, Zhang-Zu's face is full of bullshit, and the story of Snape in women's clothing that he agreed to be a must-have chapter in the Harry Potter fanfic turned into a trick for himself. Since the rope that tied him was turned into a woman's dress, Zhang-Su popped out his magic wand after untying it, and relieved himself of funny. After reacting, Professor Lupin came to Zhang-Su with his wand and poked Zhang-Su's shoulder with his wand. Zhang-Su pushed Lupin's wand away depressedly, and said, "Don't make trouble, I'm a human, not a Boggart." Then Zhang-Su pointed to the tea cupboard in the teacher's lounge and said, "The Boggart you want is in there." "Then what do you do?" asked the bewildered Professor Lupin before he left the teacher's lounge just now. He also confirmed that the Boggart was in the closet. Why did he become a living person in a short while? "Oh, don't offend Professor Scarlet easily." Zhang-Su sighed and walked towards the sofa beside him. Professor Lupin suddenly realized, and patted Zhang-Su on the shoulder when Zhang-Su passed by him. The little lions who had figured out the situation laughed cheerfully. Amidst laughter, Zhang Su sat on the sofa and slowly explained the curse of Funny Funny. When the spell was working on Zhang Su just now, he found that there was a part of the shadow of transfiguration in the spell, which explained why he was hit by it, and there were also some parts related to the soul and emotions. Think of boggarts that can explore the characteristics of human fear. It seems to feed on human fear, which is similar to Dementors that feed on human happiness. In this way, the Funny Funny that can expel boggarts and the Patronus charm that can expel Dementors may have similarities in the parts involving souls and emotions. Perhaps when Professor Lupin finishes his class, he will borrow this teaching aid to study. Zhang Su thought. At this time, Zhang Su saw that boggart had turned into a, year-old moon in front of Professor Lupin. Chapter 87 Basilisk Breastplate, 5 gold and 1 piece. At the beginning of this semester, Hogwarts was full of big news. First, I encountered a Dementor doing a security check on the train, which frightened a group of students. Then came the shock brought by the new professors at the opening banquet. After entering the formal class, the 3 new professors brought different feelings to the students. On the first day of class, the new Professor Hagrid had a serious teaching accident in his first class on protection of magical creatures. Draco Malfoy, a student of the Snake Academy, was injured by a hippogriff in class, and lay down in the school infirmary from Monday to Thursday. Many students don't care why Malfoy got hurt, they care more about whether they will get hurt during class. This hurt the Lion Cubs, who had been trying their best to promote that Malfoy was the first to cause trouble. When it comes to their own safety, especially when it is the human side that is injured between other species and humans, people will more often bring themselves into the same kind of side. Coupled with the embarrassing applause at the opening banquet, and Zhang Su's face of the students began to mistrust Hagrid. With Lupin's arrival, defense against the dark arts has become a favorite subject for many students. Unlike Quirrell, who only knew how to read books the year before, and became the annual boss in the end, and Lockhart, who only did stage performances last year, but was finally arrested by the Ministry of Magic for releasing a basilisk, Lupin's way of teaching has been recognized. Students' favorite. In the classroom, the students are neither reading books dryly nor performing flashy stage performances, but actually killing monsters. Start with boggarts, then there are magical creatures such as red hats and cabas. The lively and interesting teaching methods made Professor Lupin popular with the students. And this year's 5th and 7th grade students are also happy because they met a reliable defense against the dark arts professor, because they will take the Owls and Newts exams this year. The exams of the previous 2 years were hard enough, and the exams of this course. Due to Professor Lupin's excellent performance, Zhang Su's remarks at the opening banquet that he has the ability to take over as the Dean of the Lion Academy have also been recognized by many students in the Lion Academy. When a student with a good deed met Dumbledore and asked him about it, Old Deng smiled and said nothing, leaving a lot of room for the student's imagination. There were also noises. The previous year's defense against the dark arts professor was a dark wizard, and last year's defense against the dark arts professor was a liar. So what is this year's defense against the dark arts professor? Maybe he's a werewolf. Malfoy talking ill of Professor Lupin with his gang of Slytherins. Well, boy, you got the truth. In the Muggle Studies class, the students received a wake-up call carefully prepared by Zhang Su, which made many students from wizarding families open their eyes to see Muggles. In the following classes, Zhang Su led the students to learn to use various Muggle home appliances that are regarded as magical in the eyes of wizards. Of course, they are all magically modified versions. Traditional home appliances cannot be used in Hogwarts, and the usage is the same anyway. In the second class, a telephone is placed in front of each student's seat, and a phone book is placed next to it. Students can press the numbers in the phone book to call other students in the classroom. In the third class, the students simulated shopping in a supermarket. The students in the 6th and 7th grades were not so happy. What greeted them was an unprecedented brainstorming. As a child of a traditional wizarding family, the economics, strategy, and social knowledge needed to run a family have already been taught by the elders of the family for a period of time. At their age, the economic, political and social knowledge of the Muggle world brought by Zhang Su opened a door they had never seen before in this respect. What is more popular than Zhang Su's course is the big screen in the classroom. The students clearly preferred the short film of battling the basilisk, and the documentary shown during their first class. Facing the high enthusiasm of the students, Zhang Su simply opened the Muggle Studies classroom as a small theater after dinner. In the first few days, short films about fighting the basilisk and documentaries for class were played on a loop. Later, Zhang Su simply transcribed a batch of classic movies for playback. This led to the students often exclaiming the dean of the church and the nun is also crazy, looks like Professor McGonagall when watching the movie, so that Professor McGonagall, who heard the wind later one night, also visited the Muggle Studies small cinema. When Zhang Su wanted to watch the Serie A game, except for a few Muggle-born fans and wizards, the other students expressed no interest. Against the background of Lupin and Zhang Su's excellent performance, Hagrid, who became more restrained in class after Malfoy was injured, became more and more incompetent in the eyes of the students. This led Hagrid and Harry bear great pressure. In addition, an incident that happened in Hogwarts Castle not long ago also made the little wizards talk about it with great interest. It was the first Friday in September, and students were making their way to their classrooms, as usual, before the afternoon start time. The students passing by the teacher's lounge suddenly heard a boom. The door of the teacher's lounge was rushed open, and Professor Zhang, who was in the limelight recently, ran out rolling and crawling. Immediately afterwards, the students saw Professor Snape rushing out of the faculty lounge, casting various spells on Professor Zhang, who was running ahead, and Professor Zhang also fled while fighting back. According to the traces of the spell left on the castle wall, the students judged that Professor Snape cast powerful spells. The two professors called all the way from the faculty lounge to the response room, making the little wizards who saw them on the way look confused. Fortunately, both of them kept their hands, and did not accidentally injure the students. For a while, there were different opinions about the reasons for the two professors' fight. One of the most widely circulated and most believed legends is that two professors begged Professor Scarlet in the faculty lounge at the same time, and the two sides fought violently. In the second week, Hogwarts students found that they had twice as much math homework as before. In the end, it was Dumbledore who took the initiative and fined the two of them a month's basic salary. Soon, the truth of the matter came out: Snape, women's clothing, video brooches. Under such an active atmosphere on campus, coupled with the fact that outdoor activities were blocked, a group of young wizards who were full of energy and had nowhere to vent their energy made a big news. Slytherin's Chamber of Secrets has been found. Zhang Su was stunned when he heard the news. It was the last Sunday in September, when Zhang Su was having breakfast. Cedric Diggory came to the dining table in the Eagle Court and told him the news. After the basilisk incident last year, no one found the Slytherin chamber where the basilisk lived. And at the beginning of this semester, the students who participated in the operation of the previous semester were dispatched again. After a series of developments, the after-school tea time and Hogwarts Defenders, two groups with highly overlapping members and the most influential among students, were reorganized at the end of last semester. In simple terms, the two groups formed a loose co-leadership, with the after-school tea time doing the brains, the Hogwarts Defenders doing the hands, and the students who joined both groups doing both the brains and the hands. In the co-leadership, Harry Potter was regarded as a double bonus red stick, Zhang Su became a white paper fan, and Cedric Diggory led several other students to take charge of daily chores. The youth magazine started by Percy and others is currently relying on these two groups. Now the magazine is in the process of preparing for the first issue of Halloween. When the term started, the after-school tea time students started looking for work on the Slytherin Chamber of Secrets. Their first goal was to lock on Myrtle's bathroom. The murder of the basilisk 50 years ago, the attack on Mrs. Norris last year, and the place where the alarm first occurred at the end of last semester were all related to this place, so everyone regarded it as a breakthrough. After a carpet search, the faucet with a snake pattern and no water flow finally caught the eyes of the students. Although the students don't know Parseltongue, they can't open the entrance, but they have ghosts to help. After the fat monk, Nick and other ghosts searched through the walls, they found a huge pipe under the faucet, and followed the pipe to the door of the secret room. When Zhang Su came to Myrtle's bathroom, Dumbledore, the deans of the 4 major colleges, Lupin, and Scarlet had already arrived. Filch stopped the curious students at the door, and the Fat Friar and Nick described the Chamber of Secrets and the secret passage to Dumbledore and the others. According to the ghosts, there is an enlarged pipe not far below the floor below the faucet. After some research, the professors who found that the entrance and exit could not be opened still accepted Zhang Su's advice and blew a big hole in the floor. Under the leadership of Dumbledore, the professors got into the pipe one after another. 2 or 3 hours later, Dumbledore brought Zhang Su and the others out of the pipe. Except for that pair of green and very bright snake skin, the group of people had nothing to gain. Chapter 88 Drink It. Thursday, September, Mid-Autumn Festival. On this day, the students in the Hogwarts castle suddenly discovered that the professors today are somewhat different from the past. Potions class, the students of the Lion Academy found that Professor Snape wore a faintly bewildered smile throughout the class, and in this class, Professor Snape didn't grab the students of the Lion Academy as usual. When Neville was about to make a mistake, Professor Snape even mentioned something aside, just like he usually mentioned Draco Malfoy. This sudden change terrified Neville, so much so that the potion in the crucible that should have been stirred clockwise was stirred counterclockwise twice by him, making him the first person in the class to perfectly concoct the potion student. So Snape also gave the Lion House a point for the first time. Potions class ended in such an atmosphere that terrified the students of Lion Academy and Snake Academy. On the way to the cafeteria, the three of Harry met Ginny. Ginny said that in the Transfiguration class today, the rabbit conjured by Professor McGonagall had a longer tail. The three of Harry were shocked, and realized that this matter was not simple. With Professor McGonagall's decades of transfiguration skills, it was impossible for him to make such a mistake. Combined with Snape's performance just now, the four little wizards murmured together, could it be that something happened between Professor McGonagall and Snape, such as Snape proposing to Professor McGonagall? In the afternoon, Harry and the others stopped gossiping because they already knew the answer. In defense against the dark arts class, it was not the former Professor Lupin who stood on the podium, but Professor Snape, whom no one expected. Standing on the podium of the defense against the dark arts class that he had dreamed of for many years, Snape felt that the sky at Hogwarts was clear today, and Snape liked it very much. Then Professor Snape began to yell at the students of the Lion Academy, and the points that were awarded to Neville before were doubled and deducted. Harry and the others, who were worried about Professor Lupin, wanted to greet him during dinner. As a result, they did not find Professor Lupin in the cafeteria, and even Dumbledore, Professor McGonagall and other professors did not appear in the cafeteria, and even Zhang Su did not appear at the table. Only Hagrid was on the professor's seat. The students in the cafeteria soon discovered this situation and started talking non-stop. At the same time, the professors who did not appear in the cafeteria collectively appeared on the roof of the reading room. In the center of the rooftop is a cauldron set on a fire, constantly bubbling with steam. On the long table next to the cauldron, there were several silver bowls emitting magical light. One of the bowls was filled with more than half a bowl of blood, and the other bowls were filled with various herbs. Beside the long table, a wolf-like humanoid creature was sitting on a chair, stretching out its hand, asking Snape standing next to him to draw blood with a syringe. Around the roof, there were sofas and coffee tables in a circle. The professors were sitting on the sofa, watching Snape and the werewolf in the middle of the roof. "I think we're trying to treat Professor Lupin as the main course for tonight," said Zhang Su, who was eating a double yellow mooncake with white lotus paste. "It seems that the pot is not big enough," Dumbledore said while biting a piece of sweet and greasy rosebean paste mooncake. Sitting on a chair and turning into a werewolf, Lupin had already taken the medicine before, and now he could naturally understand a conversation between Zhang Su and Dumbledore while maintaining his sanity. Lupin grinned reluctantly, but with his in the current werewolf state, laughing can make people cry. Snape drew a syringe of Lupin's werewolf blood and filled it into a pre-prepared bowl. Then it was time for Potions Master Snape to perform. Inside the cauldron on the fire was the potion that had been boiled for half a month. After half a month of continuously adding medicinal materials and water for boiling, the potion now has a strange yellow color. Snape first poured into the cauldron a bowl of blood drawn from when Lupin hadn't turned into a werewolf, and then stirred a stick with his wand. Then Snape saw the timing and put the remaining several medicinal ingredients into the cauldron in the next hour or so. The surrounding professors, as well as Lupin who was sitting on the side, were silently watching Snape processing the potion smoothly. No one said a word, for fear of disturbing him. When Snape poured the blood of Lupin who had turned into a werewolf on the table into the pot, and then stirred it thoroughly, the whole pharmaceutical process came to the last and most important step. Snape picked up the lid of the pot from the table next to him, closed the lid and tightened it with a snap. After confirming that the handle on the lid was aligned with the handle on the body of the pot, he finally put the pressure-limiting valve on the pot cover on the exhaust pipe. Then Snape cast a spell on the body of the pressure cooker, and after the body of the pressure cooker became transparent, the color of the potion inside could be seen. There are two major problems in the production of the werewolf antidote developed this time. One is that when making the potion, the last step needs to add the blood of the person who takes the potion on the day when there is no moon, and the blood of the person who turns into a werewolf on the night of the full moon. In the past, the blood was preserved by magic, and as a result, it was easy to cause the blood to be affected by magic energy for half a month, resulting in a certain level of blood pollution. This time, the blood was preserved at a low temperature made of ice cubes to avoid contamination of the blood. Another problem was discovered only recently. Some potion materials need to be heated above 110 degrees Celsius to react with other potions. According to the previous practice, the open crucible used in the past could not heat the medicine inside to this temperature. Not to mention that Hogwarts is located in the Scottish Highlands, and the boiling point of water usually does not even reach, degrees Celsius. So what Zhang Su used to make the potion this time was an extra large double happiness pressure cooker that Zhang Su bought from a supermarket in London. The handmade red copper and carved dragon hot pot presented to Nixon, who visited China as a national gift, was made by this manufacturer. Soon, through the magically transparent body of the pot, one could see that the potion in the pressure cooker began to gradually change color. When the moon was in the midheaven, the potion began to emit a faint fluorescence, which meant that the potion was successfully made. When the brightness of the fluorescence in the potion stopped increasing, Snape moved the pressure cooker to the table and began to cool down the pressure cooker. After the pressure in the pressure cooker dropped, Snape opened the lid. At this time, the see-through magic on the pot has been lifted, and the medicine in the pressure cooker emits light green fluorescence, and the water vapor continues to rise under the light of the fluorescence. Snape used a spoon to scoop the viscous fluorescent light green potion in the pressure cooker into the cup, then picked up the cup and walked in front of Lupin. Drink, Lupin, this is the fate of the werewolf. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 89. Rich, Willful. After Lupin drank the potion that Snape handed him, he changed back to his original human appearance at a speed visible to the naked eye. But Lupin also paid a price. His mouth was scalded by the scalding potion. Snape stopped cooling the pressure cooker as soon as it had cooled to a temperature that could be opened. Then, just as the lid was lifted, Snape scooped out the potion and handed it to Lupin. The surrounding professors didn't realize at the time that the temperature of the medicine was around 90 degrees Celsius. Fortunately, Lupin drank the potion in a werewolf state. With a werewolf physique, he just got scalded, otherwise he would have to lie down in the school infirmary tonight. Snape was happy to be able to trick Lupin, and it was a good thing he didn't feel hot when he held the cup full of potions. In the following days, everything proceeded step by step. The professors teach the students every day, and the students are desperately exuding youthful hormones in their spare time. Filch fights wits and courage with the students who violate the school rules. As the saying goes, where there is competition, there is progress. In the course of this struggle, Filch and the students, especially the magic level of a certain twin brother, continued to rise at the same time. Now the standard for students to evaluate whether they have mastered a disillusionment charm is to play pranks in front of Filch after casting the spell on themselves. There are also people who have changed. Lupin has to drink a glass of werewolf antidote named Elone every night before going to bed for half a month, and needs to go to Madame Pomfrey for a physical examination every morning. In the last week of October, the students once again discovered that the professor of defense against the dark arts had been replaced by Snape. At this time, Lupin stayed in the headmaster's office all day, under the supervision of Dumbledore, preparing to spend the night of the first full moon after treatment. If Lupin can successfully pass this level, it means that Elone has been successfully developed. The professors once calculated that the profits from treating werewolves in the British magical world could double their bonuses and benefits, not to mention the werewolf village in the United States, and werewolves all over the world. The salary of professors at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry consists of basic salary, teaching seniority salary, class hour salary, performance salary, special allowance and welfare allowance. Among them, the basic salary, teaching salary, class hour salary and performance salary are borne by the Ministry of Magic, special allowances are borne by the school board, and welfare allowances come from Hogwarts' small coffers. And Hogwarts profits from the transformation of scientific research results all went directly into the school's small treasury, and then part of it became the welfare allowances of the professors. It is this part of the welfare allowance that makes the total income of the professors keep going up. The high income makes the professors full of enthusiasm, and the enthusiasm of the professors is transformed into the homework assigned to the students. Zhang Su still admires the potential of Hogwarts students. With a heavy homework, they can still spare a lot of time to participate in after-school activities after completing their homework. It seems that the current homework is not too much, and there is still the potential to continue to increase. At this moment, Zhang Su was in pain and happiness. On the one hand, he is able to assign homework to the students energetically, and at the same time, other professors are also energetically assigning him a lot of extra homework. Although Dumbledore waived all of Zhang Su's homework, he had to take seriously the homework that other professors specially prepared for him to complete when he was free. In the Muggle Studies professor's office, Zhang Su didn't use the disk originally used by Professor Carrie D. Bubaji. After all, Professor Bubaji just stayed without pay, not resigned, so Zhang Su got himself another desk in the office. Now he has to prepare lessons, correct homework and write homework, and Zhang Su, who has to prepare for next year's senior high school entrance examination, has no free time. The reading room was handed over to Zhang Chu to manage it at the beginning of this semester. He also only participated in the activities of the other two student associations when he was free. Zhang Su has not participated in the magic practice in the room of requirement every Saturday night for 2 or 3 weeks in a row, and the guidance has been left to Harry's trio. And from time to time, a professor comes to give guidance. But Zhang Su didn't look for the matter, but the matter found Zhang Su by himself. Third-year students can visit Hogsmeade, but my aunt and uncle did not sign my consent form. Harry, who came to Zhang Su's office to find Zhang Su, said to Zhang Su anxiously, "Zhang, you have what can I do? You have to know, Harry." Zhang Su shrugged, "There are only 3 people in this world who can sign your consent form. Your aunt and uncle, and your godfather. Others, even if it is magic, neither the minister nor Professor Dumbledore can sign it." On the train back to school, Lupin told Harry that Sirius was Harry's godfather. When Harry heard Zhang Su mention his godfather, his whole face became distorted. Then Zhang Su said, "Give me your consent form, there's a way, maybe you can try it." Harry, who seemed to have caught a life-saving straw, immediately took out the consent form from his school bag and handed it to Zhang Su. After hearing Zhang Su's words, Zhang Su took a piece of paper and wrote a letter, rolled it up with Harry's consent form and handed it to Harry. "Let Hedwig send it to Bill Weasley, and I'll let him find a way to find your uncle. There are many problems that can be solved with 1 bag of gold coins, or 2 bags if 1 bag can't be solved. They can be solved with gold coins. The problem is not a problem. If the matter is resolved, you can return the gold coin to Bill yourself," Zhang Su said to Harry. For Harry, money is something he does not lack, and the wealth accumulated by the Potter family is in his hands, not to mention the gold coins in Gringotts. But the house where Harry's parents lived in Godric's Hollow is now filled with Harry Potter's name on the real estate certificate. A while ago, when the Wheel-Eyes were preparing to open a broom shop, they had a lot of headaches due to lack of startup capital. Later, under Zhang Su's matchmaking, Bill Weasley found Harry, and soon persuaded Harry to invest in the broom store, and Harry became the second shareholder of the store. For the foreseeable future, Harry could make a fortune in dividends. Young and wealthy, the structure of family members is extremely simple, and the family history is long. Without knowing it, Harry became the best candidate for the son-in-law of many wizarding families. These wizarding families are all waiting and watching. If Voldemort still disappears in a few years, these families will let their daughters poach Ginny's corner. After sending away the dazed Harry, a little red-haired had walked into Zhang Su's office. "Ginny, what's the matter?" Chapter 90 Feed Banban Something Weird. Seeing Ginny nervously walking to her desk and sitting down, Zhang Su was at a loss. After pouring a cup of tea for Ginny, Zhang Su gave her an encouraging look. After drinking a cup of tea in one breath, Ginny fainted, and then Zhang Su stretched out his hands to Ginny. After drinking a cup of tea in one breath, Ginny calmed down and mustered up her courage. She blushed and said to Zhang Su, "Zhang, I want to ask you a question about me and Harry." Seeing Ginny's expression and question, Zhang Su instantly made up 10,000 plus words of content. Through Ginny's next narration, Zhang Su knew where her problem was. Due to the skyrocketing popularity of Harry after stealing the head of the snake last semester, and the short film edited by Zhang Su during this period of time fueled the flames, many girls in Hogwarts began to flirt with Harry. Facing the hole waving in front of her, Ginny began to feel unconfident. For this kind of problem, Ginny couldn't find anyone else to do life counseling for a while. None of her brothers were reliable in this area, and none of the other girls she knew was reliable. Hermione, who is reliable, has been busy all day and 2 days recently. So she found Zhang Su, who is known as the life mentor of Hogwarts single dogs. After hearing Ginny's question, Zhang Su also had a headache. You 12 or 13-year-olds, you don't study hard, you think about dating all day long, you can't do anything at your age, don't you take off your clothes and do your homework together? No wonder Professor McGonagall said recently the quality of Nee's homework has declined. It seems that puppy love is really harmful. If I knew it earlier, I wouldn't have matched the two of them so early. After Zhang Su thought about it for a while, let's not talk about the big truth, and Ginny couldn't understand it at this age, so he directly gave her an idea that Harry would always pay attention to her and couldn't do without her. After hearing Zhang Su's idea, Ginny's face became excited. She had thought about this idea before, but she couldn't implement it last year because of her lack of age, and this year, there just happened to be a good opportunity. After seeing off Ginny, Zhang Su had time to continue to revise his homework. It didn't take long for the sixth child of the Weasley family to find him. Zhang Su suddenly discovered that the children of the Weasley family and the Calabash dolls were a bit in sync. The number is 7, of which the 4th and 5th are twins. If Ron, the 6th baby, hadn't become Harry's friend, he might have become passive and invisible like the 6th baby Calabash. How about showing the Calabash brothers next week's evening in the Muggle Studies classroom? Zhang Su thought. Could you take a look at my scabber, Zhang? Ron said as he put his pet on Zhang Su's desk. Since I brought him back from Egypt, he has been a little bit unwell. He's been freaked out by Hermione's cat lately. Zhang Su saw that Ban was skinny, and the whole mouse had no energy, like a heavy smoker. It seems that since learning that Sirius escaped from prison, his spirit has been frightened and collapsed. Is it normal to eat recently? Zhang Su asked. It's eating very little now. Ron shook his head and said, it's hiding under the bed and shaking every day. Then Ron saw Zhang Su take out several bottles of unknown liquid, take some from each bottle and put them together into a bottle, cap the bottle and shake to mix well. Then Zhang Su took out a box made of white jade. When the box was opened, the steaming box was divided into many compartments, which contained various insect eggs. Zhang Su first took out a small syringe, pulled out the needle, and first drew out a small half of the syringe from the mixed liquid just now. Then I picked up a small insect egg with a thin bamboo tweezers, and stuffed the egg into the head of the syringe. Then grabbed Scabbers, stretched its mouth open and stuffed the syringe in, and even the eggs and the liquid in the syringe were squeezed into Banban's stomach. After putting down Banban, he packed up other things, and Zhang Su handed the bottle of mixed liquid and syringe to Ron. This is a kind of tonic. Feed him once a day in the morning and evening. It will recover after a while, Zhang Su said to Ron. After Ron left, Zhang Su sat back in the chair, closed his eyes and began to think. Do you want to detonate the matter of Sirius in advance? And if this case is overturned, the blow to the prestige of the Ministry of Magic will be huge. Because the case was overturned, the original hero became the heinous sinner, and the original sinner became the wronged person. For the sake of their own face, those gentlemen in the Ministry of Magic can even get rid of Sirius and Pettigrew together. The truth at that time is up to them to tell. Think about the stupid Damu who is struggling now, and will die because of the washing powder in the test tube more than 10 years later. In the end, the British government said that our intelligence was wrong. If Sirius and Pettigrew were silenced by the Ministry of Magic this time, then only after Harry and the others grew up and took power would it be possible for the truth to be made public. So if this matter is to be done properly, you have to plan a lot. But for Hogwarts, whose painting style has been brought into the ditch by himself, Zhang Su can't guarantee that his plan will go smoothly. He learned a lesson last year. In Chapter 40, he was still thinking about how to bring rhythm. As a result, in Chapter 41, the brains of the students made him give up his plan to bring rhythm. So Zhang Su finally decided to ignore it, and let Harry Potter organize everyone to worry about it. After all, this is also his family business. This is also a good opportunity for Harry to organize his team. If he is surrounded by not just a trio, but a group of like-minded friends, it will be much easier to fight the Death Eaters led by Voldemort in the end. Moreover, Zhang Su himself is busy this school year, and he will take the high school entrance examination at the end of June next year, so he can't spare much time to be busy with other things. For the final insurance, Zhang Su made an arrangement before. A few days ago, he hinted to Hermione that he could cure Ron's scabbers. Today, while Ron was taking Banban to see a doctor, Zhang Su put a spell on Banban. On the surface, Zhang Zuming was feeding Banban medicine, but in fact, He was feeding it an egg of a goo worm. At the same time, most of the mixed medicines fed to Banban are normal nutrients, and only one is a special medicine specially used to feed goo worms. When the goo worm's eggs come into contact with a special medicine extracted and secreted from the goo worm's mother, they will wake up and hatch from a dormant state, and then parasitize in the stomach. The hatched goo worms will eat the potion first if they have this potion, and if they don't have it, they will start to absorb the host's nutrition. It would be fine if Ron kept feeding Banban the mixed potion, but if Banban ran away and couldn't take this potion, he would die of malnutrition within a year. To get rid of this kind of goo worm, apart from special insect repellent, the only option is to remove it by surgery. Neither of these methods is available in the British wizarding world. Next, just wait for the appearance of Sirius. Chapter 91: The Journey to Hogsmeade. The day before Halloween, the first Hogsmeade weekend of the school year arrived. For Hogwarts students above the 3rd grade, their task today is to go to Hogsmeade to have a good time, and then come back to have a big meal at night. Hogsmeade is the only village in England that is populated entirely by wizards. Only students from grade, and up are permitted to visit on weekends with the consent of their parents or other guardians. Students mainly live on the streets of the village. This is like the area around the University Gate in Zhangsu's previous life. There are many shops and bars for students on both sides of the street. The only difference between the two is that Hogsmeade is not for students' small hotel. Harry's consent form had been held 2 days ago, and Bill Weasley had Harry's uncle sign it for 2 bags of gold coins. That's why Harry's now hanging out with his friends at places like Honeydukes, Zonko's Joke Shop and the Three Broomsticks. In the Honeydukes candy store, Zhangsu put the sour popping candies, BB multi-flavored beans, bloody lollipops, pot cakes, chocolate balls, chocolate crucibles, chocolate frogs, cockroach piles, pineapple preserves, and blowing treasures in the store. Super bubblegum, fudge pops, fizzibees, fudge flies, ice mouse, jelly slugs, licorice wand, nougat, peppers, peppermint toads, pink coconut sorbet, pumpkin soda, pumpkin pie, lollipop quills, toffees, mints, fudge, etc. are packed in several packages of each candy. One of these candies was given to the staff member in the embassy who helped him record the AC Milan game video, and the others were given to relatives and friends in China. Customers like Zhangsu who have scanned the entire catalog made Honeydukes boss, Mr. Ambrosio Froome, very happy. Not only did he get a very affordable discount at the checkout, but he also gave him a VIP card, and finally sent him outside the door in person. The Hogsmeade post office is an owl post office in the village of Hogsmeade. There are 200 or 300 owls of different species, from great grey owls to horned owls, all squatting on shelves, marked with color codes. Color codes are based on how fast they deliver. When Zhangsu took out all the large and small bags he bought from Honeydukes and said that he would send them to London, the staff at the post office were all overwhelmed. The staff of the post office said that if the candies were sent separately, at least half of the owls in the post office would have to be dispatched, and there would be a storm of owls in the place where the goods were received. Zhangsu also realized this problem at this time. If there is an owl storm blowing in the embassy, and then it rains candies, the embassy must call the approaching science program team, and he himself will definitely be arrested by the embassy training meal. In the end, the staff of the post office found several large boxes and asked Zhangsu to put the candies in separately, and several owls pulled a box to deliver the goods at the same time. After walking out of the post office, Zhangsu, who had finished his main tasks for the day, began to wander around the village. Hogsmeade is located on a high mountain and is covered with snow all the year round. Walking on the street, Zhangsu feels like he is in a fairy tale world. When Zhangsu walked to the edge of the village, he suddenly heard a boom sound from a distance. He turned his head and found a big black dog overturning a household's trash can, and seemed to be looking for food along the way. The trash cans in front of the houses of several families have been overturned. As a dog lover, Zhangsu naturally had some thoughts when he saw the number 1 in 1 black, 2 yellows and 3 flowers. Just as Zhangsu was thinking about whether it was stewed or crispy, a flash of light flashed through his mind, and he suddenly remembered that this product is not edible. Just when Zhangsu was thinking about what to do next, the door of the house opened. Looking at the people who came out of this room, Zhangsu and Higa were stunned at the same time. Madame Pomfrey was dressed in a nurse uniform as she was in school, and she walked up to the black dog with a large plate full of sausages in her hand. Madame Pomfrey put the plate in front of the black dog, then stroked the dog's head and smiled without saying a word. as if encouraging the black dog to eat the plate of sausages with her eyes. At first the black dog resisted, but seeing the gentle smile on Madame Pomfrey's face, seeing the delicious sausage on the plate, and feeling his empty stomach, the black dog still lowered his head. I only heard the black dog groan twice, then lowered its head, and ate the sausage on the plate with big mouthfuls. Seeing that the black dog was eating happily, Madame Pomfrey used magic to restore the trash can that the black dog had overturned just now, and all the garbage scattered on the ground returned to the trash can. After the black dog finished eating the sausage, Madame Pomfrey continued to stroke the dog's head, telling it to come here to find her when it was hungry. After the black dog groaned twice, it turned around and ran away. Only then did Zhang Su walk over to greet Madame Pomfrey. "Hello, Madame Pomfrey." "Hello, Zhang. Would you like to come in and sit for a while?" Madame Pomfrey said to Zhang Su. After agreeing to Madame Pomfrey, Zhang Su and Madame Pomfrey walked into the house together. This house is the place where Hogwarts treats squibs externally, and every weekend there are scheduled squibs to come for treatment. Because many squibs were afraid of being seen by too many people, Hogwarts chose a house on the edge of Hogsmeade Village for the treatment location. Madame Pomfrey would come here on the weekends to treat the squibs, and there would be a few high school students here to help out. It's just that today is the Halloween holiday, and there is no squib appointment, so Madame Pomfrey came over today to sort out the medical records of several recent patients. Entering the house, Zhang Su saw that the first floor was arranged as a reception hall and several rooms, and the second floor was the lounge for Madame Pomfrey and other staff. In the reception hall, Zhang Su chatted with Madame Pomfrey for a while about the situation of the squibs who came to treat them during this period, and then Zhang Su changed the topic to the black dog just now. "I was sorting out materials in the office just now, when I heard the sound of the trash can being pushed down outside the door," Madame Pomfrey said. "I thought it was a prank by some student, but when I came out, I saw a big dog looking for something to eat, so I went into the kitchen and got some sausage and went out to feed it." As expected of a medical worker, full of love. "Do you know who raised this big dog?" Zhang Su asked. "I don't know, it's the first time I've seen this black dog here," Madame Pomfrey said. "However, there was a similarly big dog in Hogwarts more than a decade ago, and it often appeared at night. See it by the Forbidden Forest. Recently the residents of Hogsmeade have been talking about." After chatting for a few words, Zhang Su left, and he still has an appointment later. Chapter 92 The Hogwarts Shock Department established. The Hog's Head is a small pub in Hogsmeade. A tattered wooden signboard hung from rusty brackets over the door, with a picture of a severed pig's head, blood seeping through the white cloth that it was wrapped in. Zhang Su walked into the bar and found that there was only one small, dark, and very dirty room, which exuded a strong smell of lamb. The bay windows were thick with grime, barely letting in the light from outside, and candle stubs were burning on rough wooden tables. At first glance, I thought the ground was compacted mud, but when I stepped on it, I realized that centuries of dirt had accumulated on the originally stone-paved ground. Zhang Su only saw such a poor shop when the black workshop that was confiscated was broadcast on the news. Before entering the store, Zhang Su put on the hood of his robe to cover his face. Just like other guests in the bar, Zhang Su walked to a table in the corner with his head down and sat down. There were many customers covering their faces in the Pig's Head bar, and Zhang Su's behavior did not attract attention. In other words, only those who walked in openly would appear to be out of place here. After ordering a cup of butterbeer and putting it on the dining table, Zhang Su sat on a chair and closed his eyes to rest. A few minutes later, Zhang Su opened his eyes when he heard footsteps approaching him. A wizard in a black robe with his face hidden in a hood sat across from Zhang Su. The wizard on the opposite side was sitting on a chair, twisting his body unnaturally from time to time, looking out of place with his place. "Can't you meet in another place?" said the wizard. "Do you want us to meet at Madame Pomfrey's tea house?" Zhang Su replied. Zhang Su's answer obviously choked the wizard opposite. "Don't worry about these details," Zhang Su said. "What do you think of this business?" The wizard replied, "The price you asked is too low. The quantity you want is too much, and it is too dangerous. If it is found out, I will be in great trouble. The price won't be higher. 998 galleons have already reserved enough profit margin for you. Although those things are a bit troublesome, I don't believe it's a big problem for you," Zhang Su said. "You know, I'm being targeted by that red-haired guy, and if he catches me, we'll all be in trouble," the wizard explained. "I don't believe that your family has no way to hide secrets. Well, you can supply them in batches. This is the bottom line. Zhang Su said. If you can give me a promise, then I will agree to this condition. The wizard said. What promise? Zhang Su asked. If something happens in the future, I hope you can protect my son, said the wizard. As long as we cooperate happily in the future, our family can provide shelter for your son without harming my family's interests. Zhang Su said. Deal, said the wizard. I will let my son inform you when the goods are ready. Okay, I will send someone to pick up the goods then. Zhang Su said. Some families are very dissatisfied with the current magic world. The wizard said after hesitating for a moment. Zhang Su was a little strange. They are opposed to our families trading with you, so they are trying to find a way to destroy the current situation. The wizard said. How many families like this do you think? Zhang Su asked. There are less than 5 of them. We're not going to have trouble with money, replied the wizard. Then what are their plans? Zhang Su then asked. Some regrettable accidents happened to you. The wizard left after finishing speaking. Zhang Su looked at the butterbeer on the table, looked at the environment in the store, and finally didn't dare to drink it. After leaving the dirty and messy Pig's Head bar, Zhang Su came to the streets of Hogsmeade Village, taking advantage of this afternoon to go shopping again. Zhang Su visited the Winranju quill pen shop and bought some quill pens for home use. Then he stopped by Fairy's Wizarding clothing store and bought a dozen woolen socks for winter. After leaving Zuko's magic joke shop, Zhang Su saw a temporary shed on the side of the road, crowded with students who wanted to buy things, including several wizards living in the village. Curious Zhang Su also squeezed past, and found that it was the stall where Percy and the others sold the first issue of the youth magazine, and then he paid for a copy and returned. Holding the newly bought magazine, Zhang Su entered the Three Broomsticks bar, found an empty table, ordered a cup of hot mead, and read the magazine while drinking. On the cover of the magazine is a picture of a basilisk jumping at students with its mouth open, and in the corner is a picture of students from 2 years ago hugging each other and shivering. Open the magazine. The first part is about the first few attacks of the basilisk. The title of the first article was Shocked by the Serious Injury of a Pureblood Girl at Hogwarts. In this article describing Ginny's injury, first interviewed Madame Pomfrey who was treating Ginny at the time, and then exaggerated the vagueness of Ginny's injury, and accompanied it with a picture of Ginny tied up all over her body after treatment. A photo of a man in a bed covered in bandages and unconscious. The article also implies throughout the article that the murderer is extremely vicious. Whether the victim is an 11-year-old girl or a pureblood wizard, he will cast vicious spells on each other. When Zhang Su finished reading this article, if he hadn't checked Ginny's body at that time, he would have thought that the girl in the article was dying and dying soon. The title of the second article is Whether the attack of a cute cat in the middle of the night is a distortion of human nature or a loss of morality. This article introduces the matter of Mrs. Norris being petrified on Halloween a year ago. The whole article implies that the murderer will not let you go, no matter whether you are a 2-legged person or a 4-legged cat. The title of the third article is A Teenager Visiting Friends Late at Night, and this kind of thing happened. The title of the fourth article is That It Can Make People Die Twice. Really, everyone is scared to death. Zhang Zhuguang knew what the content was just by reading the title at the beginning. He talked too much and gave Percy and the others a way to shock the department, but Percy and the others played it all up. The content of the second part of the magazine is a positive interpretation of some policies recently issued by the Ministry of Magic. Zhang Su could tell at a glance that the officials of the Ministry of Magic who had been positively reported were all with Percy and the others. The third part is written by students who have been to Huaxia this summer about what they saw and heard during the exchange visit. Fortunately, these articles still record what they saw and heard in the form of travel notes, and have not yet issued a cry of body loss and far thinking. After reading the entire magazine, Zhang Su found that Percy and the others had done a good job. The content was attractive and able to draw some people to his side. Zhang Su looked at the sky and it was getting dark, so he finished his hot meat and went back to Hogwarts to have a big meal. Chapter 93. Damn serious, even stole my dog. The Halloween banquet has begun. Hundreds of jack-o'-lanterns with various expression packs are hung in the auditorium, as well as a group of fluttering bats and many orange streamers breathing flames. They float lazily under the ceiling, like brilliant water snake. On the professor's seat, Lupin, who had disappeared for several days, reappeared in front of the students. Harry and the others could see a bright smile on Lupin's face, as if he had just won the lottery jackpot. The food tonight is as exquisite as ever. It is not in vain that Zhang Su didn't eat all day today, so he kept his stomach full to eat tonight. Looking at the chicken salad, grilled prawns with cheese, roasted lamb saddle, winter solstice pudding, sandwich steak, lamb stewed with potatoes, roast goose stuffed with chestnut stuffing, oxtail soup, and various eggs, porridge, bacon, ham, sausage, butter, jam, bread, milk, juice, etc., Zhang Su found out that he was going to make a killing tonight. In the end, Zhang Su walked out of the cafeteria while leaning on the wall while chewing giant Wuxia Oshi tablets. Just after leaving the cafeteria, Scarlet found Zhang Su. "Zio Zhang, are you free next weekend?" Scarlet asked. "Yes, do you want to date me?" Zhang Su replied. "Hey, I have something good then," Scarlet said with a smile. "What a good thing?" Zhang Su asked strangely. "Get ready for snow," Scarlet said. "Yes, winter is here." Zhang Su became more and more curious the more he listened. Could it be something related to winter? "It's snowing, how can there be no dog meat, hot pot and beer?" Scarlet licked his lips as he said. Looking at the excited little girl in front of him, Zhang Su said that he would be free if he had dog meat. "Where did you get the dog meat?" Zhang Su asked strangely. "I caught it myself," Scarlet said. Oh, Zhang Su had a bad premonition in his mind. "I went to the Screaming Shack this afternoon and I saw a big black dog walking towards the Screaming Shack," Scarlet said. "It's big enough, but it's very thin. You can tell it's a stray dog at a glance. When I saw it for the first time, I knew it would be a fat dog after feeding it for a week. Just right, it's time to make a hot pot. So I went to catch it. Don't tell me, that dog is still very smart. When I see my sister, I will show a startled expression, and then turn around and want to run." Sister, who am I? After a spell passed, I threw it down, tied it up and took it back to Hogwarts. As soon as I got back, I took it to the kitchen and let the house-elves feed it well. After Scarlet finished speaking, he put on a proud expression. After Zhang Su listened, he found that his hands were shaking a little. Seeing that Zhang Su didn't speak, Scarlet thought he was thinking about how to cook dog meat, so he started to go into the daily mode of teasing Zhang Su. "Hey, you little boy, you ate dog meat. If you have any ideas, you can come to me." "Oh, you really don't want me to tell you that the password for my dormitory is Char Siu Bun?" Before Zhang Su could change the topic in his daily life, a prefect of the Lion Academy hurried over. "Professor Scarlet, Professor Zhang is not well," the prefect shouted. "What happened?" Professor McGonagall couldn't wait for Professor Dumbledore to retire, so he rebelled and usurped the throne tonight, Zhang Su asked. Yes, the prefect spoke while panting heavily, but the more he panted, the more he couldn't speak, and the more he couldn't speak, the more anxious he panted. "That's true. Needless to say, we will always be the principal, and whoever becomes the principal will support whoever is," Zhang Su said with a serious face. "No, it's not this one, it's the fat lady." The prefect's breath became more even. "It's the fat lady who has usurped the throne to become the principal," Zhang Su said. "That can't be done. Hurry up and follow me to put down the rebellion." Only then did the prefect catch his breath, and hurriedly said, "It's the fat lady at the door of the Gryffindor common room. She's gone. Her portrait was vandalized." "Understood," Zhang Su said solemnly. "Professor Dumbledore is at school tonight, and he will be responsible for everything that happens. I told you earlier that you should be calm when you are in trouble. How calm you were when you were dealing with a basilisk. Why are you so dizzy now that you can't even speak well?" Zhang Su continued, "Have you gone to notify Professor Dumbledore?" "Someone has informed, and I'm here to inform other professors," the prefect said. At this moment, Dumbledore's voice sounded from the loudspeaker at Hogwarts, telling all the teachers and students to gather in the cafeteria. When Zhang Su and Scarlet returned to the cafeteria together, students from Hufflepuff, Ravenclaw, Slytherin and other houses also came, and these students looked confused. Sirius Brett has sneaked into the castle. "The professors and I will conduct a thorough search of the castle," Dumbledore said to the students. "For your own safety, I think you may have to spend the night here. Zhang, stay in the auditorium with Hellison to take care of the administration, with the Boys and Girls Council presidents and prefects assisting you. Report to me immediately if anything happens." Dumbledore paused, and was about to leave the auditorium when he said, "Oh, by the way, you're going to need this." With a random flick of his wand, the long tables flew to the edge of the auditorium and stood against the wall with another wave. "The ground is covered with hundreds of purple sleeping bags. Sleep well," said Dumbledore, closing the door behind him as he went out. At this time, Zhang Su and Scarlet closed the doors of the cafeteria together. Then Zhang Su directed the students in the cafeteria. The first grade students are in the middle, then the second grade, the higher the grade, the outermost, and the seventh grade students are on the outermost. Prefects guard all the doors, and those with medals go to sleep by the door, and get your wands ready. Remember, no one can leave the auditorium without the consent of Professor Scarlet and me. If someone knocks on the door, the prefect guarding the door will be ready to fight and ask me or Professor Scarlet to open the door. We can even deal with basilisks. Why are we still afraid of a mere Sirius Black? Zhang Su's last words gave the students confidence. Such a powerful basilisk is still standing in front of the Hogwarts castle as a specimen. Sirius can't be more powerful than the basilisk. After the students settled down, Zhang Su checked the time, and it was only 8:30 in the evening. In his previous life, the evening self-study was not over yet, so the students were not forced to sleep after announcing the blowing of candles at 10 o'clock and prohibiting the students from leaving their sleeping bags. Zhang Su let them make trouble. Zhang Su also went to Harry's side specifically, warning him that if he dared to sneak out by himself tonight, he would not even think about running into Quidditch in the past few years at school. Harry nodded in horror. Many students sat on the sleeping bags and chatted with the people next to them. The two presidents of the Students' Union patrolled among the students, while Zhang Su and Scarlet stood guard at the gate. "I'll take a look outside. It's okay for you to watch alone," Scarlet said. "Okay, go outside and check," Zhang Su replied. More than 10 minutes later, Scarlet came back. "Damn Blake," Scarlet said angrily. "What's the matter, did you see him?" Zhang Su asked. "No. I stopped by the kitchen just now. The dog is gone. Blake must have stolen it. He hid outside without eating. He would have eaten the dog if he stole it," Scarlet said angrily. Zhang Su was speechless. At this time, a girl sitting near Zhang Su asked Scarlet, "Professor Scarlet, Black won't come to the auditorium. If he dares to come to the auditorium, I will definitely beat him up like I did when I was studying at Hogwarts," Scarlet said. Chapter 94 Listening to the Professor, the Past Gossip. "Professor Scarlet, why did you beat Black at that time?" Another girl next to her asked with a gossip expression. "TCH, why else? Blake is looking for a fight on his own," Scarlet said with a look of disdain. At this time, the students who heard Scarlet talking with the two girls at the door gathered around, and everyone was curious about what happened between Scarlet and Black. Back then even Harry squeezed in and sat beside Zhang Su. Looking at a group of students who were begging for gossip and updates, Scarlet grinned and told the story of the year. "When I was still at Hogwarts, Black was a very showy student," Scarlet said after taking a look at the fourth and fifth wheel eyes. "It's like the Weasley twins plus like Peeves, making trouble in the castle all day long. I have to say that Blake was very popular with girls at that time. He was very handsome and gave people a very elegant feeling. And his strength was also very good," Scarlet said with a smile on his face. "If he said at that time that he would become a vicious murderer in the future, no one would believe it, and everyone would rather believe that Professor Dumbledore would shave off his beard." The students around thought about Dumbledore's appearance after shaving, and couldn't help laughing. "To tell you the truth, Professor, I was a famous talented girl in Hogwarts back then, and the love letters I received every year can go around Hogwarts," Scarlet said proudly. When the students around heard this, they immediately filled their brains with millions of words such as gifted scholar and beautiful woman, love triangle, two boats, starting in chaos and ending in abandonment. Only Zhang Su, who knows the personalities of these two people, can guess that the development of the matter is not as the students thought. "When I was about to graduate, that brat Blake came to me." After speaking, the eyes of the surrounding students lit up. "At the beginning, he was just pretending where I passed, trying to attract my attention. Seeing that I ignored him, he came up to say hello to me with a cheek. Then he sent me a love letter every day." The girls around let out a wow exclamation. To hear such exciting gossip, tonight's emergency evacuation is worth it, but none of them noticed Scarlet's disgusted expression at this time. "I gave those love letters to other Ravenclaw boys at the time, and asked them to change their names and copy them again, and gave them to other girls." At this moment, the students around turned into expressions of "there is still such an Operation JPG. Later, he saw that I had been ignoring him, so he suddenly made a big news for me. I'll never forget that day as long as I live. That weekend, when I was about to go to Quidditch training, Black conjured up a large red rose in front of the castle gate, and he stood among the roses and waited for me. One of his friends with messy hair used magic to fix a shiny banner with messy words in midair. Scarlet said Harry and glanced at Harry sitting beside him. Another little friend of his was standing beside him with a pretty box in his hand. And one of his pale-faced friends stood behind them playing the violin. I didn't expect that fellow as pale as moonlight to play the violin so well. At this time, Harry's trio and Zhang-Su cast their gazes on Lupin's face, who had just come to the cafeteria to check the situation. At this moment, Lupin had a smile uglier than crying. After I walked out of the gate of the castle, Black said in front of the surrounding students that he liked me and wanted me to be his girlfriend. When the students around heard it, they all yelled wow. Several girls quickly asked Scarlet if she agreed. Girls of this age have no resistance to such romantic things. Later, Scarlet said with a sneer, I took out my wand and knocked all 4 of them flying, and then put a petrification spell on each of them. And finally I tied all 4 of them to the whooping willow. On the tree trunk. HMPH, a few arrogant and arrogant 4th grade brats, so you don't want to mess with me. The sudden change in the painting style caused by one sentence made the surrounding group of students who were waiting to hear gossip, love, hate, and hatred into a state of confusion. Ah, so Professor, you are almost 40 years old this year. Ron, who was sitting next to Harry, paid attention to something different from other students. Zhang-Su saw that Sister Scarlet, who was only 16 years old and 250 months old this year, and still a long way from 40 years old, had several blue veins popping out of her forehead after a bang. With a smile on her face, Scarlet took out a thick stack of test papers from the pocket that had been cast with a no-trace stretch curse, then stuffed the test papers into Ron's arms, and said softly to Ron, Ronway classmate Sly, I think you have a wonderful bone structure. You are a mathematical genius who is unique in 10,000. It is up to you to maintain world peace. I have a set of math test papers. I see that you are destined, so I will give it to you. No, don't eat when you're done. At this time, a student saw Lupin walking into the cafeteria and asked, Professor Lupin, you were also at Hogwarts at that time. Lupin touched his forehead when he heard it. He couldn't say that he was not only in Hogwarts, but also on the trunk of the Whomping Willow. Although the professors know that he and Black are good friends, it is not very good to say it in today's situation. Scarlet glanced at Lupin, sighed and said, well, if the person standing among the red roses was not Black but Professor Lupin, I might have agreed. The eyes of a group of students around were sparkling again. You don't know, Professor Lupin back then was a quiet and handsome man. He was knowledgeable, mature and steady, and had a sense of humor. Many seniors liked him as a secure boy. On the contrary, Black frivolous, conceited and arrogant guys, only ignorant little girls will like them. If you want to find a life partner in the future, just follow Professor Lupin's template to find it. Scarlet said to the girls around. At this time, Lupin had already escaped from the cafeteria. Professor Scarlet, if Professor Lupin pursues you now, will you agree? Classmate Harry asked. I already have my heart. I still have a set of math test papers. You can't sleep until you finish writing them. Scarlet handed out another stack of test papers. Chapter 95 Leading the Dog Out of the Hole? The surrounding students saw the test papers in Ron and Harry's hands, and gave up asking Scarlet on certain points. After all the gossip, the students' fear of Blake was gone. Everyone started to discuss separately. Some were discussing how Black sneaked into Hogwarts Castle, and some were discussing Scarlet's revelation just now. While the girls were discussing skincare with Scarlet, Zhang-Su estimated that it was time to turn off the lights. Zhang-Su asked Scarlet, what time is it? Scarlet, 10 o'clock. Zhang-Su, really? Scarlet, it's still early, it's not clear. Zhang-Su, I mean 10 o'clock. Scarlet, the students haven't gone to bed yet, we'll be back at 11 o'clock. Zhang-Su, I mean, is it 10 o'clock? Scarlet, you know how to punish me one day, and you will die later. Zhang-Su, I mean it's exactly 10 o'clock now. Scarlet, it's all right now. Zhang-Su, who took a while to react to what Scarlet was saying, silently extinguished half of the candles in the cafeteria, reminding the students that it was time to get into their sleeping bags. Fortunately, the two of them spoke Chinese, otherwise a group of little girls around would gossip again. Soon, the students all got into their sleeping bags, but no one listened to Zhang-Su's order forbidding everyone to speak, and the whole cafeteria was filled with whispers of twittering. Zhang-Su and Scarlet didn't say anything more about it. All the candles went out in an instant, and Harry finished his math paper half a minute before the candles went out. The enchanted ceiling, like the sky outside, is full of stars. Zhang Su sat on a chair by the door, looking at the starry sky on the ceiling. What are you thinking? Scarlet moved a chair to sit beside Zhang Su. I thought of a song. Zhang Su said. Oh, let's sing it. Scarlet looked curious. Zhang Su looked at the students around him who were starting to sleep, and activated the sound transmission function for Scarlet. Low black sky, bright stars follow, insects fly, who are you missing? The stars in the sky are crying, withered roses on the ground, cold wind, as long as you are with me, insects fly, sleep with flowers, one prayer after another is beautiful, not afraid of dark, I'm afraid of heartbreak, tired or not, regardless of the north, south, east, west. After singing Chanjurfei, neither Zhang Su nor Scarlet said anything. After coming here for a long time, Scarlet asked, who taught you this song? Naifeng. Zhang Su said. Then both of them fell into a long silence. Around 3 o'clock in the morning, when many of the students had finally fallen asleep, Professor Dumbledore entered. Have you found any trace of black, Professor Dumbledore? Scarlet asked. No. How is it going here? Dumbledore replied. Everything is safe here. Zhang Su said. Okay. There is no need to ask them to change places now. I have found temporary guards for the portrait cave in Gryffindor House. You can send everyone back tomorrow, said Dumbledore. What about the fat lady? Zhang Su asked. Hiding in the Angel County map on the 3rd floor. Apparently she wouldn't let Blake in without asking for the password, so he did. She's still in a bad mood, but once she's calmed down, I'll call Filch fix her, Dumbledore replied. Then there were footsteps outside the door again, and it was Snape coming over. Dumbledore, Zhang Su, and Scarlet met Snape outside the cafeteria. Snape reported the results of the search to Dumbledore, and no trace of black was found in the castle. After the report, Snape asked, how did he get in? Do you have any opinion on this, Headmaster? Many, Severus, each as improbable as the one below, said Dumbledore. Next, Snape reiterated his suspicions about Lupin. Dumbledore warned Snape not to think so. Only Zhang Su, who stood by, knew that the person who brought Black into Hogwarts Castle was actually by their side. For the next few days, everyone at school talked about how Black had gotten into the castle. Tea time after school gathers almost every night to work on this problem, but no one has a clue. They have explored all the secret passages known to the Weasley twins, and found no trace of anyone walking through them. The Screaming Shack had been enchanted by Zhang Su early in the morning to prevent people from entering from Hogsmeade for a while. Everyone couldn't find a clue. After dinner one day, Harry was called to the headmaster's office. When Harry walked into Dumbledore's office, he found that the atmosphere in the office was very strange. Harry saw Dumbledore looking at him with a smile on his face. Professor McGonagall seemed to have just lost his temper, Lupin had a serious face, and Zhang Su was in a daze. Professor McGonagall said to Harry very seriously, there is no need to hide it from you, Potter. I know this will come as a shock to you, but Black, I know he's after me, said Harry. Professor Scarlet and Lupin told me, and I heard Ron's father tell his mother. Meg seemed very taken aback. She shot Lupin a look, came over for a while and said, I see. Well, then, Potter, you understand why I don't think it's a good idea for you to practice Quidditch in the evening. On the pitch, there are only your teammate. You are very revealing, Potter. We're going to have our first match on Saturday and I've got to practice, said Harry, for Quidditch. He dared to challenge Professor McGonagall. Now we have a plan, Harry. Lupin also said with a serious face, but this will put you in danger. I'm not afraid of danger, said Harry firmly. That's when you train as usual and draw Black out, Lupin said. It's too dangerous, Lupin. Professor McGonagall said loudly, if anything happens, Potter will die. I think it should be Harry's choice, Lupin said. I would. Harry nodded. Seeing that Harry agreed, Dumbledore nodded to Zhang Su, who was sitting beside him. Since you are willing, then you can wear this during training these few days. Zhang Su, who had been silent on the sidelines, handed a green vest-like thing to her after getting a signal from Dumbledore Prophet. At this time, the armor made of the basilisk's shed skin is worn inside the robe. It can save your life if necessary. Zhang Su explained. Then Zhang Su took out a rope made of thin ropes of various colors. This rope is used to tie it to your broomstick. It can resist evil spells against your broom. If this rope smokes, you should immediately return to the surface and return to the castle under the protection of the professor. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 96 Harry, I want to take the wind to go home, but I am number 039, am afraid that the high places will. If you want to set up an ambush against Black, you must find a professor he doesn't know and stay by Harry's side during training, otherwise Black will run away when the dog is scared. But now, among the professors at Hogwarts, Blake basically knows all of them. These professors were either his professors back then or his former classmates. So Professor Zhang was assigned by Dumbledore to the stadium to protect Harry. In the end, the leading the dog out of the whole plan failed. Black did not show up during Harry's training, and Zhang Su was drenched in the wind and rain for several days. Soon, the Quidditch season of this school year began in a storm. The past 2 years have been tragic years for the Quidditch team of the Snake Court. Last year, with the funding of the Malfoy family, the Snake Academy was fully equipped with the latest Nimbus 2001 broomstick, thinking that it could crush the other 3 academies with its equipment advantages. As a result, the broomsticks replaced by the Eagle Academy were better than their Nimbus 2001. During the game, they were crushed by the Eagle Academy with equipment, and when they played against the Lion Academy, they were defeated by the opponent's Seeker skills. It was inferior to the Eagle Academy in terms of equipment, and inferior to the Lion Academy in terms of technology. The Snake Academy was reduced to the point where it planned to seek victory from the Badger Academy as a result. Cedric Diggory, who was discovered by Zhang Su in the Badger Court Quidditch team, once again taught Draco Malfoy how to be an excellent seeker. Objectively speaking, Draco Malfoy is a good seeker, if at other times, he can be called excellent. It's a pity that he was born at an untimely time, so he could only raise his glass and sing Draco, Harry Potter, Zhang Chu, Cedric Diggory. Under the background of the excellent seekers of the other 3 colleges, student Xiao Ma has no choice but to become an organic fertilizer to set off the red flowers and green leaves. This year, a piece of new news made the Quidditch players of the Snake Academy even more frustrated. The Eagle Academy Quidditch team has completely changed their outfits again this year. Last year's trial version of the broomstick has been eliminated after obtaining various data. This year, it has been replaced with the latest Zhulang No broomstick, which far surpasses last year's broomstick broom. Since the Weasley family opened a broomstick shop, Bill Weasley sponsored the latest Dongfang 21 broomstick for the Quidditch team of the Lion Court, which is comparable in performance to the Zhulang No of the Eagle Court. Even the Badger Court was not willing to be lonely. The Dean, Professor Sprout, personally found Bill Weasley, and at the price of the Badgers Quidditch team's portrait rights, he brought back 7 cards that were similar in performance to the Eagle on Lion College. The broom is similar to the Land 1 broomstick. Now the Weasley family's broomstick shop is covered with advertising posters featuring the 3 house Quidditch players. The Snake Court has always regarded itself as a pureblood, so it is impossible for them to go to the shop opened by the pureblood trader to buy brooms, and it is even more impossible for Snape to buy firebolts for them. So at this time, the Quidditch team members of the Snake Court had already fainted from crying in the bathroom. After the Snake Academy changed the order of the game under the pretext of Malfoy's injury, the Lion Academy ushered in the Badger Academy in the first game of the year. Although the robe on his body is not afraid of wind and rain, walking in such a violent storm still makes Zhang Su very uncomfortable. Originally, he didn't want to watch the game today. It was a kind of enjoyment to sleep in while listening to the sound of wind and rain on a rainy day. But after the leading the dog out of the whole plan a while ago failed, Dumbledore thought that Black might attack Harry today, so all the professors who could fight in Hogwarts went to the Quidditch pitch in case. Zhang Su knew that what attracted today was not something as simple as Black. Sitting alone in the empty front row seat on the highest level of the stands, Zhang Su entered the mode of watching the game. The game entered a fierce stage from the very beginning. The 2 teams that had just put on new brooms were in the state of getting new toys. Regardless of the storm in the sky, the 2 teams started a fast break together. Students in the stands can often only see a red or yellow shadow flying behind the rain. Amid the cheers of the audience, the scores of the 2 teams rose alternately. Zhang Su saw that Harry was still using the Nimbus 2000 broom that Professor McGonagall had given him for a player who mainly relies on personal skills and has little cooperation with players, A broom that he is familiar with and has good performance is often more suitable than rashly using a broom that has better performance but is unfamiliar. The weather is getting worse, the clouds are getting thicker, the sky's getting darker, and there are bursts of thunder in the sky. Just now the Lions had a wave of scoring, leading by, points all of a sudden, and then the Lions called a timeout. After a few minutes, the game restarted under lightning. There were more and more lightning bolts in the sky. Zhang Su looked at where he was sitting. At that time, he chose the highest level of the stands for a wide view. Now he found that there were no lightning rods around the stands, and he could not feel the force exerted on the stands. Magic spells such as lightning protection spells. Sitting in this kind of place during the thunderstorm, the rhythm of going through the catastrophe every minute. When Zhang Su wanted to change places, he suddenly heard a strange footstep behind him. Harry was struggling to find the snitch in the wind and rain. After avoiding a bludger, he turned around and tried to get back to the center of the field. But just then, another bolt of lightning illuminated the stands, and Harry saw what completely distracted him, the silhouette of a huge, shaggy black dog, clearly reflected on a row of vacant seats on the top floor of the stands. There was a person who looked like a student sitting in the front row of the stands. Harry's numb hand slipped on the broomstick, and as Nimbus 2000 dropped a few feet he brushed the drenched tassels away from his eyes, and looked sideways at the stand. The dog had disappeared. The student who was sitting in front of the stand was looking up at him, but the rain was too dense to tell who it was who. Next, Harry was reminded by Wood and found the golden snitch flying in the air. Zhang Su in the stands felt something, and immediately cast a mechanized mind on himself. Suddenly, the entire Quidditch pitch fell into silence, and many students in the stands let out screams of panic. Around the stadium, hundreds of Dementors floated in the air. Suddenly, Harry Potter on the broomstick fell from the sky. While Harry was still in midair, a spell flew towards him from the audience, slowing his fall. Zhang Su saw that it was Dumbledore's position. Only less than half a second behind Dumbledore, several levitating spells hit Harry from the audience. Zhang Su saw that these spells came from Professor Snape, Lupin, McGonagall, Flitwick, Sprout, and Scarlet. Less than half a second later, some students with high willpower and low influence from Dementors also came to their senses, and cast spells such as the levitation charm on Harry in the air. With everyone's concerted efforts, Harry, who had received countless floating spells, stopped falling and was blown away by a gust of wind. Chapter 97 Saving Private Harry Potter. Looking at Harry Potter who was going to stand shoulder to shoulder with the sun, Zhang Su had a black line in his head. The current wind level is between 7 and 8, with a wind speed of more than 10 meters per second, which is many times higher than the speed at which cherry blossoms fall. Not to mention whether Harry would be blown into the mountains around Hogwarts, or into the hands of Dementors around the Quidditch pitch, it was serious enough. Unlike on a train, attacking a Dementor on a train counts as attacking a law enforcement officer. Let them be detained lightly in China, and shot to death in the United States on the spot. Attacking the Dementors who attacked the students on the Hogwarts grounds is armed self-defense, and Dumbledore is on top. Seeing Harry in the gust of wind being blown towards the direction of the Dementor like a kite, before the other Quidditch players in the sky recovered their senses, Zhang Su made a move. After Zhang Su released the mechanized mind from his body, he took out the staff he had used when he slaughtered spiders in the Forbidden Forest last time, mobilized the mana stored in the crystal on the staff, and began to prepare to cast spells. Heaven and earth have righteousness, and there are manifolds. Below are the rivers and mountains, and above are the sun and stars. People call it Horan, and Pihu Sali Kangming. As Zhang Su's voice sounded, a ball of golden light appeared from the top of the staff in his hand, rose to the top of Zhang Su's head, and kept getting bigger, and soon the diameter of the ball of light had expanded to about 1 meter. When Zhang Su's voice ended, the ball of light exploded as if it had exploded. Almost instantly, a golden storm visible to the naked eye centered on Zhang Su and swept across the entire Quidditch field. When the golden storm passed through the students on the audience stage, the students felt a sense of righteousness rising from the bottom of their hearts, and the panic and despair in their hearts were swept away by this feeling. After the golden storm swept across the field, it didn't slow down, crashing into the Dementors like a wall. In summer evenings, there are often swarms of mosquitoes flying together in the garden downstairs of Zhang Su's house. When Zhang Su has nothing to do, he will pick up the electric mosquito swatter at home and give these mosquitoes a big sweep. After the golden storm passed through, the Dementors in the air were like mosquitoes caught by an electric mosquito swatter. A burst of golden light erupted from their bodies, and then fell down with a clatter. The weaker Dementors were blown into a puff of black smoke in the air. The stronger ones fell into the air and controlled their figures, and more Dementors directly hit the ground with a slap. The body kept twitching. At this moment, Zhang Su was lying on the seat in the stands, covering his head and panting. After discovering a way to deal with Dementors on the train, Zhang Su has been thinking for a long time how to use Oriental system spells to deal with Dementors. After communicating with domestic experts, the spell Zhang Su used today was finally selected. There are many spells in the spell that can spread the mind of the caster. This type of spell can integrate the emotions and will of the caster, and then make the person receiving the spell have the same emotions and will. Today, Zhang Su integrated the awe-inspiring righteousness into the spell, supplemented by huge mana, like a golden torrent. It swept away all the negative emotions brought about by the Dementors in the students' hearts. And the power of this powerful attribute is in conflict with the attributes of the Dementors. When the power of the Dementors is lower than this spell storm, once they are touched, they will either die or be injured. It's just that guiding such a huge amount of mana is still a bit difficult for Zhang Su now. After exhausting a lot of energy, he is now extremely exhausted and can only lie on the bench panting. The Dementors suffered a heavy loss today, just like everyone was so hungry that they formed a team to steal a few watermelons to eat. But the watermelons were not stolen, but half of them were bombarded to death by Runtu, who watched the melons with Italian cannons. However, the Dementors dare not say anything more. On the one hand, they have their own faults first. On the other hand, they dare not go to Dumbledore and the Ministry of Magic to appeal now, because Harry Potter, the star of the British magic world and the savior classmates, because of them, were blown away by the strong wind and disappeared. At this time, it would be boring for them to find them. On the Quidditch pitch, just as Harry dropped his broom, Cedric Diggory caught the snitch and ended the game. The students in the auditorium had all left, and there were only 3 figures in the stand where Zhang Su was just now in the entire stadium. On the original open-air stands, a shed to keep out the rain has now been erected. Under the shed, Zhang Su was still lying on the bench. Dumbledore sat not far from Zhang Su. His face extremely ugly. In front of him was a huge sand table of the surrounding area of Hogwarts. The sand table was divided into square grids. Whenever an owl or paper crane brought the latest information, Scarlet next to the sand table inserted a flag representing Harry Potter not found in the grid. Seeing more and more flags on the sand table, Dumbledore's face became more and more ugly. Back to 3 hours ago, when Zhang Su dealt with a Dementor, the students and professors who came back to their senses suddenly found that Harry Potter had been blown to nowhere by the wind. Several attempts by Dumbledore to bring Harry Potter back with a calming charm failed. Then everyone tried various spells to find people and things, but still nothing worked. All the broomsticks in Hogwarts have been dispatched, and students and professors are conducting a sweeping search around Hogwarts. Even the 2 broomsticks Zhang Su used in his treasure bag were lent to Lupin and Snape. The only good news is that the floating spells on Harry Potter will not disappear at the same time. After the floating spells gradually expire, they will only let him fall to the ground slowly, so that he will not be thrown to death all at once. At this time, Zhang Su's spirit had almost recovered. After drinking a few bottles of potions, the pain in his head was no longer there, but his complexion was still very bad. At this moment, 1,000 paper cranes flew in front of Zhang Su. Zhang Su opened the 1,000 paper cranes, and the contents inside surprised him. On the paper is a stick figure, on which is a desk with a left drawer open. If you can't understand the information expressed in it just by looking at the desk, Zhang Su will understand the picture of Doraemon next to the desk. Period. After putting away the paper, Zhang Su walked to Dumbledore's side and said to him, "Use the time turner, Professor." But Miss Granger can't defend against the Dementors outside the stadium, and she doesn't use her broomstick very well, and flying in this weather is extremely dangerous for her. Dumbledore obviously also considered using the time turner. "I use it, Professor," Zhang Su said. "It's dangerous for you to use the time turner," Dumbledore said seriously. "No problem, Professor. You will get good news soon." Zhang Su winked at Dumbledore while speaking. Dumbledore saw Zhang Su blink, and suddenly showed an expression of enlightenment. "Okay, go to Miss Granger. You know what to do," said Dumbledore. Chapter 98 Zhang Su and Number 039's Journey Through Time. Less than an hour after Zhang Su left the Quidditch pitch, a series of flares rose in the sky like beacon towers. According to the previous agreement, after Harry Potter is found, a green flare will be fired. If Harry Potter is in danger, a red flare will be fired at the same time, and if Harry Potter is not found, a yellow flare will be fired. But now, a green flare and 2 red flares appeared in the sky. Soon, Snape and Lupin brought the unconscious Harry and Zhang-Su back to Hogwarts and sent them to the school infirmary. Traumatized and with multiple frostbites, Harry Potter awoke the next morning. Zhang-Su, who found Harry Potter, was in a coma for 3 days before waking up. When Zhang-Su woke up, he felt that his head was messed up as if it had just been dried in a washing machine, and his body was also extremely tired, and it was very difficult to move his fingers. Zhang-Su finally understood at this moment why Dumbledore didn't use the time turner to rub Voldemort on the ground. The issues involved in time travel are so esoteric that even the inventor and producer of the time turner only scratched the surface of them. After using the time converter, Zhang-Su realized that it is not only the magic power of the user, but also the soul of the user that affects the use of the time converter. He didn't know this when he first used the time turner. At that time, he turned the hour hand 4 times, and when he came back to his senses, he was already lying in a thatched hut with a black bear skin under his body. His condition at that time was the same as now. His head was in a mess and he had no strength in his body. After more than 10 days of complete recovery, due to the language barrier, he used the legilimency he had just mastered on the little girl who had been taking care of him during this period of time. After learning that the little girl who had rescued herself from a coma in the wild, their tribe was going to war with the other 2 big tribes, and that the boss of their tribe was Chiyu, Zhang-Su took the little girl and jumped back without hesitation. On the way of jumping back, Zhang-Su used magic to make more than 10 longbows and took them with him, saying that he did not come to find his ancestors for a meal. The Yellow Emperor, who got 18 horizontal longbows of the Han Dynasty, was very happy. He asked his eldest son to recognize this white and tender young man as his godson on the spot, and gave this young man who called himself Su the surname Zhang, and then bestowed on him the surname Zhang. He has 18 girls. When his 5th elder brother Zhang Wei, the ancestor of Zhang, came to ask him to make a vow together in the early morning of the next day, Zhang-Su, whose feet were still a little soft, was still in a dazed state. In this way, Zhang-Su spent his days making vows in the sky, and studying time converters and the structure of the human body in the late Neolithic age at night. After participating in this holy war, Zhang-Su finally figured out why he went back to the Neolithic age. The time converter is like a map of time, and the user sets a point on the map to reach that time. And the magic power of the user is the scale on the time map. The greater the magic power of the user, the greater the scale. A large scale means low 0. Suppose Hermione's scale is at the city map level when using the time converter, and Dumbledore is at the world map level when using it. An error of 1 mm on the 2 maps at the same time. The error on the city map is the same as the distance across the road, and an error of 1 mm on the world map is enough to make people fall into a ravine. There is also the influence of the soul when the time converter is used, and the difference in the influence of the soul of people in this world is very small, and it can almost be calculated as a constant. And Zhang-Su's soul came from another world, so the impact would be huge, not only time, but also space. And time travel has an effect on the magic and soul of the traveler. Yes, the greater the strength of the 2, the greater the backlash caused, so it was a tragedy when Zhang-Su used it for the first time. After figuring out the situation, Zhang-Su adjusted the time converter to a mode suitable for his own use. Picking a sunny day, Zhang-Su used the transfiguration technique to create an open-air round platform on the circular mound altar in the Temple of Heaven Park. After bidding farewell to the ancestors, he activated the time converter on it. Left with a lot of photos and artifacts. When the second time travel reached the destination, Zhang-Su fell into the water with a thud. The backlash that Zhang-Su encountered this time was not serious, but he was a little dizzy. Soon, Zhang-Su was picked up by a gorgeous big boat passing by. People with Shanxi accents on the antique boat were all watching Zhang-Su in wonder. After recovering for a while, Zhang-Su just wanted to ask what time it is and where this place is when suddenly a storm rose on the water. Just when the big boat was about to capsize, the fat man on the boat who looked like the leader asked someone to throw Zhang-Su back into the water, praying to the gods to appease his anger. So Zhang-Su, who had just come to his senses, was thrown back into the water by a group of big men from Kansai. Zhang-Su, who entered the water for the second time, just raised his head when he was hit on the head by a stone thrown from the boat. Depressed, Zhang-Su picked up the stone that hit him and put it into the treasure bag, then opened the time converter and ran away. For the third time travel, Zhang-Su did not suffer backlash. This time Zhang Su went to a wooden building, only to find that a man in a dragon robe was holding a box and setting fire to the building. Meeting his fate, the man surnamed Li, who was determined to die, refused Zhang Su's suggestion to take him away. Instead he handed over the box in his hand to Zhang Su, and asked him to hand it over to Mingzhu in the future. Just when Zhang Su completed his fourth time travel, the backlash came again. This time he was lying weakly in a place that looked like a ship's cabin, and the sound of gunfire and explosions on the ship kept coming and going. After Zhang Su recovered, he put a bunch of protective spells on himself and turned on invisibility, and then ran to the bridge in the chaos. Then Zhang Su knew where he was. On the afternoon of September 1894, the Yellow Sea, Xian. At this time, the Xian had begun to speed up and crash into the Yoshino, and was being besieged by the Japanese Navy fleet at the same time. In front of the steel war machine, the power of the individual is insignificant. Even if Voldemort and Dumbledore are hit by a shell from the main gun of a naval gun, they can only receive a box of lunch. Zhang Su immediately took out the life-saving cards at the bottom of the box, and placed pieces of jade with powerful mana on the floor. Regardless of whether he would be discovered by the people on the bridge, Zhang Su mobilized his mana and cast a floating spell on the Xian. In an instant, Xian's weight of more than 2,000 tons was reduced by more than half. The Xian, which had been slowed down due to the injury, immediately rushed out a lot, and the speed was much faster than when it was intact. For a while, all the shells fired from the Japanese warship were left behind by the Xian. The people on the bridge felt the strangeness behind them, and looked back one after another. Zhang Su, who was maintaining the operation of the spell, felt the eyes of everyone, and shouted loudly, "Aim at the Yoshino, there is only one chance." When Deng Shichen heard that it was a friendly army, he didn't bother to ask more questions, so he turned around and continued to command. When he was about to hit the Yoshino, Zhang Su adjusted the flow of mana and replaced a floating spell on this Xian with the iron armor spell concentrated on the bow. Only a boom was heard, and the Xian crashed into the starboard side of the Yoshino. Chapter 99. Grandpa, I burned the newspaper for you. What is this aircraft carrier? 1 month after the Battle of the Yellow Sea, in a guest room of Deng Shichen's home, Deng Shichen was receiving a brainstorming session from Zhang Su. After Zhang Su helped the Xian to sink the Yoshino in the sea battle that day, he fainted on the spot due to too much mental load, and was rescued by the alchemist sent by Zhao Lao. Zhang Su woke up half a month later. Zhang Su, who claimed to have stayed abroad with his family in the early years and recently returned to China to serve the Qing dynasty, was taken home by Deng Shichen for training. In the next half-month, Zhang Su continued to instill in Deng Shichen the development direction of the future navy. Zhang Su couldn't confirm whether he was teleported to the same world, so he left some clues that he only knew from the beginning. After he recovered, Zhang Su found an excuse to say goodbye to Deng Shichen. A few days later, in Beijing in the middle of the night, Zhang Su secretly came to the place where the monument to the people's heroes of the future was located, dug a hole 2 or 3 meters deep in the ground, and engraved the gift he got when he used the time converter for the 3rd time. The missing corner of the words "ordered by the heavens will last forever" was buried with a jade seal filled with gold, and he brushed off his clothes and left, hiding his achievements and fame, and left again using the time turner. This time when Zhang Su arrived at the station, he looked confused, because he knew this place very well, and it was the family cemetery of the Zhang family. At this time, a voice came from not far away. "Grandpa, rest in peace. The Chinese team has finally won the World Cup. I will burn the newspaper to you, old man. You can be happy down here." Zhang Su turned on the stealth and walked towards the direction of the sound, only to see a handsome and personable middle-aged man who had inherited his grandfather's merits at a glance, standing in front of a tombstone and preparing to light some newspapers. On the tombstone, Zhang Su's name was engraved. Zhang Su, who didn't know what expression to make, waited for his grandson to leave, sowed weeds on his grave, and then left. After several time travels, Zhang Su finally adjusted the time converter and returned to November 1993 when the first game of the Quidditch season just started. As a result, Zhang Su suffered an unprecedented backlash this time. He had no strength in his whole body, and his head was in chaos. After resting for a while and drinking 2 bottles of medicine that relied on overdrawing his body for treatment, Zhang Su's body barely stabilized. At this moment, Zhang Su saw that the Dementors had already started to drift towards the Quidditch pitch. It was only then that Zhang Su thought embarrassingly that he didn't bring a broomstick with him. Now the broom he was carrying had been lent to Snape and Lupin before. In the end, Zhang Su still used the transformation technique, turning himself into a swallow, and flew towards the Quidditch field. When Zhang Su flew over the Quidditch field in the strong wind, he finally realized the greatness of Heian described by Gorky. Soon, Harry Potter, who turned into a balloon, flew past Zhang Su, and Zhang Su, who turned into a swallow, could only hold Harry Potter's robe tightly with his claws. Because there is no broomstick, Zhang Su can only follow Harry, and wait until he lands with him before sending out a signal. Zhang Su just flew with Harry in the sky for an hour. The levitation curse on Harry's body has not yet begun to dissipate, and Zhang Su has already consumed more than half of his energy in order to maintain the transformation, and he has to supplement it by drinking medicine and overdraft of mana. Seeing that going on like this was not an option, Zhang Su decided to take a risk. When an updraft blew them high into the sky, Zhang Su cancelled the transformation technique, held Harry under his arm with one hand in the air, and let himself and Harry fall downward. Harry, who was wearing the levitation spell, was like a balloon, which slowed down the falling speed as Zhang Su expected. Just when the two of them were 300 meters away from the ground, Zhang Su quickly cast several floating spells on himself, and finally safely lowered to the ground. Just when Zhang Su just hit the ground, a wave of dizziness hit him and almost made him fall. Suppressing the dizziness, he took out a rope from the treasure bag, and tied Harry Potter, who was still unconscious and floating, to the tree like a balloon. Zhang Su fired a large signal flare into the sky, and then just passed out. The news of Zhang Su waking up quickly spread, and Harry ran over to thank him immediately, followed by other students and professors. But at this moment, Zhang Su fell into deep sleep again without even eating lunch after drinking the medicine Madame Pomfrey sent because of using the time turner to counterattack and overdraw his magic power. When Zhang Su woke up from hunger, it was already dark. "Are you awake? Are you hungry?" A voice sounded beside Zhang Su's hospital bed. Hearing this voice, Zhang Su immediately had the urge to faint again. At this moment, Zhang Su's hungry stomach gurgled. Zhang Su struggled to sit up. Although he had regained some energy, his physical strength had not yet recovered. Scarlet sighed, and used the flying curse to bring some pillows from the empty hospital bed next to him, then helped Zhang Su up, and then used the pillows to cushion his back so that he could sit up. Then Scarlet heated a bowl of milk oatmeal on the bedside table with magic, and fed Zhang Su with a spoon to eat. There was no light in the ward, only moonlight came in through the window, and it happened to shine on the two of them. The two of them just fed the other and no one was talking. After feeding Zhang Su a bowl of oatmeal with milk, Scarlet put down the bowl and wiped the corners of Zhang Su's mouth with a towel. After packing up her things, Scarlet sat on Zhang Su's hospital bed, staring at Zhang Su, but Zhang Su couldn't bear her gaze, and wanted to turn his head to look away. As soon as Zhang Su turned his head, Scarlet stretched out his right hand, grabbed Zhang Su's left cheek, and pulled his face back. After turning Zhang Su's face back, Scarlet didn't take back his right hand, but stretched his hand forward, and gently stroked the half-missing earlobe of Zhang Su's left ear with his fingers. When the Seiun was about to collide with the Yoshino, a Japanese warship's artillery shell hit the position near the bridge of the Seiun, and a piece of shrapnel cut off half of Zhang Su's drooping earlobe on his left ear. Zhang Su's familiar face, his injured left ear, and his use of a time turner combined with 3 pieces of evidence. Scarlet concluded that Zhang Su was the person she met 14 years ago. 14 years ago, the Death Eaters went to Hong Kong to kill the Scarlet family. In order to protect the safety of her family, Scarlet alone led away the Death Eaters that day. As a result, when she was surrounded, someone, like the hero in the movie, stepped forward to rescue her at the last moment. Afterwards, Scarlet followed the person who called himself Nai Feng and dealt with the Death Eaters in the suburbs for several days, until the official reinforcements from China arrived and pressed the Death Eaters to the ground and rubbed them. "Tell me, what should I call you?" Scarlet's voice was a little cold. "Should I call you Zhang Su or Bu Jingyan?" Zhang Su broke into cold sweat. "Who is Nai Feng?" "My father." "No wonder he rejected me at the time, saying that he was going to be a father." "It's all your fault, bastard. Can I strangle you?" "Cannot. Why was it not you who carried me away when the two of you rushed out to save me together?" "I'm only 13 years old. Can I hug you?" Chapter 100. I never thought I could write Chapter 100. The conversation between Zhang Su and Scarlet lasted for a long time. Due to staying up late and hurting his health, The two simply chatted all night until Madame Pomfrey came to deliver breakfast to Zhang Su the next morning. Special drive away. The two each described their experiences 14 years ago. 14 years ago, when Zhang Su was sent to Hong Kong by the time converter, he knocked down a few young and dangerous boys who came to try to rob them, and then took all their money. When Zhang Su was eating chassé noodles at a roadside stall, he found that the person sitting opposite him happened to be his father. In the study of Zhang Su's house, there is a photo of his father not long after he joined the army. He has seen it for more than 10 years, and he will never mistake him. Zhang Su chatted with the other party on the grounds of asking for directions, and after learning that the other party called himself Nai Feng, Zhang Su was sure that he had not mistaken the person because Zhang Su's grandmother's surname is Nai, and his grandfather's 4 brothers were named Zhang Feng after wind, rain, thunder and lightning. During the summer vacation this year, Zhang Su heard from his father that he was sent to Hong Kong to perform a mission to monitor the Death Eaters, but he didn't say anything about the details of the mission during the period. He also mentioned that his pseudonym at the time was the name of his parents. So Zhang Su simply called himself Bu Jingyan, and then used the code language he learned in the capital compound to express that he belonged to the national security system, and everyone had the same task. Just when the two of them finished eating chassé noodles, Zhang Su saw a familiar figure running past him, and not long after, he saw Lucius Malfoy chasing after them with a few people. The next development was that Zhang Su and his father followed, and then Zhang Su was responsible for restraining several Death Eaters, allowing his father to take the opportunity to rescue Scarlet. Then the 3 of them were chased into the wilderness by the Death Eaters, who came to reinforce them and surrounded them. In the end, Zhang Su volunteered to lure the Death Eaters away, allowing the 2 of them to take the opportunity to break out, and then Zhang Su used the time turner to escape. In the next few days, Nai Feng led Scarlet to deal with the Death Eaters in the suburbs. It wasn't until all the Death Eaters who came to Hong Kong in the future were attracted that other people sent by the mainland began to collect the net. What happened 14 years ago was just laughed off in this conversation. Everyone is in their teens, not the kind of young people who don't know much about the world, and there is nothing they can't let go of, things they can't hope for. Life is like this, a beautiful encounter. When I was young, under the scouring of years and world affairs, I have already buried it as a good memory in my heart, or occasionally I will take it out to recall, but I will never put myself in its shadow. It's like the author ran into his ex-girlfriend on the street, went up to say hello, chatted a few words about where he worked recently, added watch it to each other, pinched her son's fat face, and then returned to their respective lives after the intersection, that is, like in the circle of friends. In fact, after many years, Scarlet put the matter aside, and was more worried about the Bu Jingyan who had no news of the Death Eater after he lured away. When she came to Hogwarts and saw Zhang Su who looked similar to Bu Jingyan, she took this matter back to her heart. At the end of the chat between the two, Scarlet gave Zhang Su a hug and added a thank you that was 14 years late for her. At this time, Madame Pomfrey, who kept coughing, held Su's breakfast came in. In the next few days, Zhang Su has been lying on the hospital bed, and his Muggle Studies class is now being replaced by Professor Scarlet. In the past few days, many friends have come to visit Zhang Su, so Madame Pomfrey often drives people out. 3 meals a day are delivered by Harry himself. Fortunately, Zhang Su could eat by himself the next day, otherwise, seeing Harry's enthusiasm, he might even feed him. Zhang Su has received many letters in the past few days. In order to thank Zhang Su for saving Harry, Mrs. Weasley sent a large box of cakes. Fu Rong sent several letters asking about his situation, and Gabriel even sent a bag of her favorite snacks. Zhang Su wrote back and told Fu Rong that he had begun to recover, and made an appointment to travel to Russia during the Christmas holiday. After the family knew that Zhang Su was injured but he was fine, he was allowed to recuperate at school. Mr. Zhao asked him to have a good talk with him about this incident after returning to China because Zhang Su just woke up and sent back to the country, which made the historians fry. During the past few days lying on the hospital bed, Zhang Su has been reading several tomes introducing time and space during time travel. He discovered that while time is changing, space is also changing, and the scale of time change is proportional to the scale of space change. Zhang Su, who is trying to figure out the relationship between time and space, has been studying Einstein's theory of relativity and other works in recent days. In the end, Zhang Su came to the conclusion that professional matters should be left to professional people to solve. His own point of a ruler moving at high speed is shorter than a ruler at rest, and a clock moving at high speed is slower than a clock at rest. Don't show off your high school level physics knowledge. Now that Zhang Su thinks about it, he is afraid. If he was accidentally sent to the mantle or outer space, he would have received a lunchbox on the spot. After lying in the school infirmary for a week, Zhang Su finally walked out of the ward alive and kicking. Daily life at Hogwarts went on like this. Ron and Hermione had a conflict because of Scabbers and Crookshanks after Ron fed the potion given by Zhang Su for a period of time. Banban's body improved obviously, and flesh began to appear on his body, but his spirit did not improve in the common room. Ron and Hermione's conflict erupted when Crookshanks attempted to attack Scabbers. While studying Black's next move with his classmates, Harry began to learn from Lupin the Patronus charm against Dementors. On the Quidditch pitch, after a fierce contest, the Eagles defeated the Badgers. The Seeker Draco Malfoy of the Snake Court announced his return from injury. The youth magazine published by Percy and the Others has recently received unanimous praise from readers, and sales have been rising steadily. While Zhang Su's Muggle Studies class was very popular with the students, he began to be attacked by conservative wizarding forces, and Zhang Su began to fight back from the youth magazine. Lupin experienced the night of the second full moon after the treatment. Fortunately, he showed no signs of turning into a werewolf during the days before and after the full moon. Therefore, Dumbledore publicly announced that the werewolf antidote was successfully developed and began to treat werewolves at Hogsmeade's medical point. Hogwarts in this quiet and peaceful atmosphere, the second Hogsmeade weekend is coming. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.